1661 to the dollar, 24.19 to the pound, 20.76 to the euro. Brent crude oil is at $67.19 a barrel.
And in the traffic, we've got delays on the M1 South approaching Marlborough Drive. This is just as you head towards Sandton. Please be on the lookout there. An earlier accident is causing those delays while travelling on the N12 West. Delays between Edenville Road and the Kilulis interchange.
A partly cloudy day in store for Gauteng. The temperatures will peak at highs between 19 and 20 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour. Correctional Services Minister Peter Groenewald has suggested corporal punishments be revisited to alleviate overcrowding in prisons by those who can't afford to pay the minimum amount of bail.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app. Walk for something greater in the 702 Walk the Talk, hosted by Freedom Park in the city of Tshwane. Get your tickets now on primemediaplus.com.
You're with Clement Manyathela
On 702.
Let's Walk the Talk, streaming on the Prime Media Plus app,
DSTV channel 856,
92.7 and 106 FM.
It's 7 minutes after 9 o'clock. Dumelang, Sanbonani, Bonjour, comment ça va? Welcome to the Wednesday edition of the Clement Manyathela Show. Thank you for being with us here on 702. I hope your morning is going well so far. The 702 open line starts now on 011-883-0702. You can send us a WhatsApp as well on 072-702-1702. Did you hear what the controversial Higher Education Minister Nobuhle Nkabane said yesterday in Parliament?
You know, when you're against transformation, it irritates a lot when you see a young woman leading such a huge ministry in your presence. It's misogyny. I understand it. I know where it is coming from. And worse, when it is a black woman, it becomes irritational.
Order, members, order.
The EFF
Honourable Minister, can you please take your seat? Oh.
Hey, wow. She thinks that accountability is misogyny. Huh? Does she think because she's a black woman, she is immune from criticism and accountability? What a disgrace. What an embarrassment for the government and the ANC. This minister clearly has no idea how problematic her attitude has been to Parliament. She clearly has no idea how consequential her actions are. She has no idea that misrepresenting facts or lying in Parliament under oath is a serious offence. Lying to Parliament is a statutory offence under the Powers, Privileges and Immunities of Parliaments and Provincial Legislatures Act. When you are impeding Parliament from exercising its functions and authority, that's an offence under the Act, and it's punishable by a fine or imprisonment of up to 3 years. I mean, it's quite incredible that she clearly doesn't even show any remorse. Who are the people who surround her? Has anybody spoken to her? Or maybe she doesn't listen to people who surround her. I interviewed the ANC yesterday. The party actually clearly agrees that her action was an embarrassment. They agree that there must be action taken against her, but they want to wait for Parliament's Ethics Committee to act first before they can act, which I think is ridiculous, because the ANC can follow its own processes while Parliament follows its own processes. And I'll play you some of the clips from that interview, and I'm interested in your thoughts about what this minister had to say yesterday. Something else that's concerning is the story about the Ekurhuleni head of forensics audits who has gone down. My goodness. His name is Mpho Mafole. He was the head of corporate and forensics audits in the city. He was shot and killed, I'm told, in Kempton Park on Monday. And the police are now investigating. I mean, the motive for the shooting is still unknown, but it always concerns me when people who are heading these forensic units in various institutions are actually being targeted and killed in a manner that Mr. Mafole has been killed. And I'm going to speak to the mayor of Ekurhuleni just after 9:30 about this. It is concerning. And I wonder, do you work in a space like that? How concerned are you about your safety? How do you protect yourself? And as an employer, maybe you own an auditing firm or you manage auditors, whatever it is. How do you protect investigators? I mean, detectives who often have to take up cases that involve the most dangerous of criminals. How do you do that? You know, someone yesterday actually posted a list of some of the people that have been killed in the past who do this kind of work. Andile Mataya was an internal auditor for the National Transport Department, strangled to death in Pietermaritzburg Hotel while investigating corruption. There's another guy that was named Moses Tsake, head auditor at the Free State Agriculture Department, died from severe injuries sustained in a hijacking considered to be related to his work. Zweli Duma, another person who was mentioned, an internal auditor for the Nongoma municipality, who was shot dead at home. Ignatius Nteso, chief audit executive for Lesotho Electricity Corporation, shot dead. Lawrence Mwepi, forensic auditor for Sizwe Nsaluba Goboto, shot dead at his Johannesburg office. Babita Diokaran, remember, the acting CFO at the Gauteng Health, shot 12 times outside her home in Johannesburg, was an auditor, was a whistleblower. Who remember Mr. Murray, insolvency specialist, someone who was auditing Bosasa, gunned down in Johannesburg with his son. There are so many cases, I can go on, instances where auditors, people who are procurement officers, detectives, when people are investigating dangerous people, sometimes their lives are at risk. And I wonder how you manage that. Are you in that space? Are you an auditor? Are you in a space where you have to often take up cases that are difficult and you investigate? How concerned are you about your safety? And maybe it's your loved one who's in that space. How are they protected? Give me a call or send me a WhatsApp voice note. Between 10 and 11 o'clock, we're going to be in conversation with the former Gauteng Premier and Minister and now businessman Tokyo Sexwale. He has written an open letter about the national dialogue announced by President Cyril Ramaphosa. So he's got some thoughts and concerns as someone who has been part of some historic dialogues that have taken place over the years. So we'll hear what those concerns are, and I'm going to be touching on other issues with him as well. At 11 o'clock, we're going to do our Listener's Choice feature. Today, we have been asked by one of our listeners to explain the Rwanda DRC peace deal that was brokered by the US with the help of Qatar. I mean, you could argue this was brokered by Qatar, because remember, a few months ago, Qatar actually had a meeting with these leaders of Rwanda and the DRC. And then the US, I feel like they piggybacked on this deal. And now they're taking credit and they're saying with the help of Qatar. But who knows? I'll find out more from our guest at 11 o'clock about how this deal was brokered and what's in it for the US. They're going to have access to critical minerals in the DRC. What does that mean for the DRC? What does that mean for the United States of America? And what does that mean for this peace deal? Because part of what the different stakeholders have been fighting for here is access to the minerals. And what does it mean that the M23 are not even signatories to this peace deal when they are such a crucial player in this entire war? So that's a chat at 11 o'clock. And then at 11:30, we're going to do our sharing space. That's the show coming up over the next 3 hours.
Clement Manyathela, streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856
92.7
and 106 FM.
Morning, Clement. It's Manford here, Midrand. You know, the minister was still arguing instead of apologizing. It's like a person who's digging. She's totally digging deeper, trying to avoid problems or trying to run away from something, but digging herself deeper into the wall, going down. And she's embarrassing us as black people, and say she's embarrassing women. good leaders. There are good leaders in women of black color, but she's totally embarrassing us. And I don't know, but at the end of the day, she is out of order. Thank you.
Morning, Clement. I think the minister, she's sort of nah as a black person. I'm telling her now, there's nothing to do with race, there's nothing to do with misogyny. It's all about accountability. When she was sitting in parliament, she just sat there chewing her food, not answering question, being like her uncaring self, which is why everyone is mad at her. She must take accountability and say, what I did was wrong. I lied. I am wrong. Full stop. There's nothing to do with color. Can they stop disrespecting us black people? Please.
And that is delegitimizing and minimizing actually the war that women often have to battle every single day of being undermined because they're black, of being undermined because they're women. Because there's someone out there who's being held accountable, and because she doesn't want to take accountability, she's going to use sexism and misogyny as an excuse. That's ridiculous. In fact, we must maybe take a few steps back. Yeah? And Abel, maybe let's find some clips that I can play to remind the listeners of the belligerent attitude that this minister demonstrated towards Parliament. I must play you some of those clips in a moment so you know what we're talking about here. When we say she's an embarrassment, she refuses to take accountability, it's not something that starts yesterday. It's actually been her attitude. It's been consistent throughout. This saga started around the appointment of Sita board chairpersons. And the president, still mum. The ANC, still mum. And they want to look to Parliament and say, yeah, but the ethics committee will act. Sure. As you are in Parliament, but as an ANC, you are a different party to Parliament. You have your own code of conduct. You have your own constitution. It's like saying, oh, someone has been accused of this, then we're going to step back and allow the courts to deal with it. Why do you have the Integrity Commission and the Integrity Committee? Why do you have disciplinary processes then as an organization? It's ridiculous.
Good morning, Clement. I hope you're well. Please keep me anonymous. Clement, I'm studying towards becoming a chartered accountant. I'm doing my articles. I have a few friends who are a few years ahead of me. I think 2021, a friend of mine, she's a qualified CA. She was auditing a municipality in, let's say, in the Far East. She found a few discrepancies. She tried to raise them. She was told that she better let those transactions go ahead. She was told that she must do nothing, leave it as is. She had to leave the job. She quit, she resigned, she left the job. I mean, as a young person trying also just to make a difference also in South Africa, in my expertise and my skills, it's scary to know that actually there's nothing I can do, because then your life is threatened if you try do the right thing or be honorable in this way. It's very scary.
It is so scary. You know, I'm receiving messages on the WhatsApp line here, and they start with this, and I'm not kidding you. A lot of them say, please keep me anonymous, Clement. And that just tells you. It tells you how many people are scared that they'll lose their lives. This one, Anonymous, says, Clement, please keep me anonymous. I'm in the forensic and investigation space. When we go investigate at the departments, we register our ID numbers, cell numbers, car registration numbers, etc. The wrongdoers get to know about our whereabouts. We are not protected. We're just working to fight corruption in our country and put food on the table. That's a message there from Anonymous. And I mean, sharing that information already really puts them in a vulnerable position, right? Another one says, hi, Clement. This is Anonymous. I'm a forensic investigator tasked to investigate fraud and corruption. I used to work for government, and after active threats, especially in the Free State government, I had to resign when the threats were against my child. I'm now in the private sector, and it's much safer. It's heartbreaking as I love what I do, and I wanted a better, clean government. But I have to think about my life and my family because I want to live. My goodness. And the stories that are being shared, unbelievable that you've got honest civilians who want to ensure that there's a cleaner government. Corruption-free. But the minute they take that moral position and they take their work seriously, their lives are at risk. In this case, your family also gets targeted. What's the hope then for our government? It's 21 minutes after 9.
Your voice,
Your station.
your open line
Walk the talk with Clement Manyathela.
on 702.
Okay, here's a quick reminder for some of you that may not understand why a lot of us are disappointed in the Minister of Higher Education, but also more so disappointed in the President for just sitting back and doing nothing. Disappointed in the ANC for just sitting back and doing nothing. Unless, of course, they're doing something behind the scenes, but they haven't said anything about any action that this minister is going to face. Now, let's take a few steps back to give you some context. So Minister Nkabane appointed board chairpersons of SETAs, right? The list of her appointments was leaked, and it revealed that she had appointed Gwede Mantashe's son and Gwede Mantashe's advisor as board chairpersons of 2 of the SETAs. Now, what was curious about these appointments was that the list was riddled with politicians. You should have seen the board chairpersons. You see, you've got politicians in KZN, you've got Gwede's son, you've got Gwede's advisor, riddled with politicians. Curiously, though, she appointed Gwede's son and Gwede's advisor. And do you remember which portfolio this minister belonged to before she became Higher Education Minister? She was a Minerals Resources Deputy Minister. So she worked very closely with Gwede Mantashe. Then she gets promoted by the president to become Minister of Higher Education. And then what does she do when she gets there? She appoints Gwede Mantashe's son, Gwede Mantashe's advisor, to be board chairs. Do you think that's a coincidence? And she tried to defend the appointments. In fact, she was asked tough questions. And she withdrew the appointments of board chairpersons. And she said, I'm withdrawing these because, I know that there have been calls for greater transparency. But she wasn't off the hook yet. Parliament wanted to know who advised you to make such appointments. And she claimed, I had an independent panel. The Parliament then said, okay, who was on that independent panel who advised you to make those appointments that were so political? And you've now admitted to that because you've withdrawn the appointments of board chairs. And she refused to disclose the names of the people who were on this so-called independent panel.
So it is not compulsory for me to disclose the independent assessor. The independent panel that is assisting the minister. I'll first find out from them, get consent, if they are happy that I disclose their names. I cannot just come here and disclose information. I need to comply with the relevant legislation. I'm not going to respond to yes or no, unfortunately.
Well, guess what? Her own legal team told her, well, ma'am, you have to disclose the names. She went and sought legal opinion. She was advised, you have to release the names. Do you remember this moment when she appeared in Parliament? She was busy eating while she's asked questions. She just showed disdain to an institution that's obligated to hold her accountable.
In your own view, Minister, what makes a person credible? When you say this one, Tebogo Chair, is credible or is not credible, what makes him credible in your own view? Minister?
What makes a person credible, Chair, is exactly how it is defined when you Google. By encyclopedia, you'll see what it means. It's exactly that.
You are not going to answer us. You are not going to answer us, Minister.
I've responded, Chairperson.
Sure, yeah. She's eating there and she says, well, encyclopedia says credible is whatever it says, and therefore that's it. That's an attitude you show in Parliament. Rightly so, South Africans, even the president was disappointed by her behavior. This attitude towards Parliament, the president even called her out and asked her to explain herself. And when she finally disclosed the list of the independent panel, it turned out not to be an independent panel because among the names were Department of Higher Education staff members, which raises then the question about their independence. And Even worse, she claimed that the chair of the so-called independent inquiry was Advocate Terry Mutau. But that was a lie, because Advocate Mutau came out publicly and said, I didn't chair the panel, as claimed by the minister. He said the minister intended to appoint him as chair of the committee, but that never materialized. So he was surprised that suddenly the minister is including his name on the list of panel members. So the minister was once again forced to apologize publicly to Advocate Mutau for, and I quote here, any inconvenience, reputational discomfort, or misunderstanding that may have arisen, end quote. Because she was caught lying and exposed. She misrepresented Advocate Mutau's role because she could clearly see that without the advocate's name, that panel was never going to pass the test of independence. Well, guess what? Even the letter where she apologized to Advocate Mutau, she misrepresented the truth again. And Advocate Mutau said he would deal with that matter in the Portfolio Committee in Parliament. Now tell me, when a minister has behaved in such a manner, how do you justify the fact that her boss has not even reprimanded her? That her boss has not even held her accountable unless she's done it behind closed doors? How do you explain that when she consistently continues to show Parliament such a stinky attitude? And the ANC is quiet. And speaking of the ANC agrees that she was wrong. Listen to what Mtumiseni Ntuli said last night.
But do you know the constitution of the ANC?
I know it.
This minister has behaved inconsistent with the constitution of the ANC. That's not how the ANC expects its members to behave.
That's quite correct.
So when something like that happens, there has to be a disciplinary hearing. There's not going to be a pat on the back and says, oh, Mdu, as the chief whip complained, and therefore we're not going to follow up on this. That would be crazy for the ANC to look at your recommendation that says the minister has misrepresented facts and not do anything about it. Do you accept that?
I don't think the ANC will do nothing about it. So I think what is at issue now, which you are raising, correctly justified, is that up to today the ANC has not indicated its own course of action.
Which is weird.
But that there would not be any decision taken against a behavior like that. I don't think that...
So we wait for the disciplinary
the ANC
action
is going to say, no, we close our eyes and we leave that. Okay. I don't think so. I think the organization is going to do something about it.
Well, let's wait and see what the ANC will do about her. I haven't seen any reports of her being invited to the Integrity Committee. I haven't heard anything about the ANC starting a disciplinary hearing, even though the caucus leader in Parliament says, I agree that this person misrepresented facts, how she behaved is problematic, and action has to be taken against her.
Hey, good morning, Clement and the listeners. The minister's attitude is quite bad. So these are the type of people that are actually undermining our sisters. That's why some of our sisters are not being taken serious, because you can't be throwing tantrums, but at the end of the day, you want leadership positions. You understand? So in terms of positions, for me, I don't believe gender or race must exist whatsoever. If you're wrong, you're wrong. You must take accountability. Thanks.
Morning, Clement. How are you today? Hope you're good, my brother. Clement, when it comes to this minister, unfortunately, we have a few of those, or a certain number of them, who are led by arrogance. There is arrogance in them, from the chewing in the parliament when not answering questions and stuff. That, to me, shows the arrogance. I am who I am. I am the minister, and I am protected. What you gonna do to me? You know, there's a lot of arrogance there. A lot of arrogance. Not about serving the people. It's about her and her protectors or whatever. Arrogance. Spew here in Jabulani.
Morning, Clement. I think Minister of Higher Education is being critiqued only for incompetence and arrogance, not because she's black or she's strong or what. No, for incompetence, her incompetence. And then when it comes to Groenewald, that's a polite way of saying let's beat up this black, because half of the time most black cannot afford bail and they are mostly in jail. And then on the issue of DRC, we wasted our time on a war that didn't benefit us at all.
It's 9:30. get the latest in Eyewitness News headlines. Fiso, hi.
Thanks, Clement. Good morning. 4 men accused of instigating the July 2021 unrest are due to appear in the Rwanda Magistrates Court today. Buisile Kulu from KwaZulu-Natal, along with Gauteng residents Jimmy Sbego, Busisiwe Skosana and Bukhadi Maisa, were handcuffed last month. The SACP says the ANC chasing out its members in a recently held election meeting in Mpumalanga was a failure of leadership. But the ANC's first Deputy Secretary, Nobuhle Nkabane, who is the one who put out the SACP members, has defended herself, saying there was nothing untoward about her actions. And Iran's Masoud Pezeshkian has granted a final approval to a law to suspend cooperation with the United Nations nuclear watchdog. The president promulgated the legislation suspending work with the International Atomic Energy Agency. This means the measure, which was thrown up in the aftermath of the Iran-Israel war last month, is now in effect. And those are the headlines. This EWN and more at 10 or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
This EWN Traffic is brought to you by cars.co.za. Let's find what moves you. Amo, how are we looking?
Well, if you're traveling in the city of Tshwane, specifically along the N1 South, the road has been closed off to traffic. That's for roadworks right at Linwood Road. Please be on the lookout there and drive with care. 4 lanes are closed off to traffic along this route. This is from now until 3 p.m. While traveling in Joburg, we've got delays on the R21. That's in the Tembisa area towards Olifantsfontein Road. That's due to roadworks. There's also slow-moving traffic along the N12 as well as the R24 ways towards the Kilulis interchange. Traffic is backed up coming out of Edenville Road. While traveling on the N1 North in the North Riding area, Sharon Lee, basically delays on the N1 North, like I say, just as at the Malibongwe Drive off-ramp. Do expect delays there due to roadworks. I have more updates for you at the top of the hour.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app. Majestic handling. V8
Cars.coza.
Horsepower that is...
Cars.coza.
This is very annoying. I'm trying to read a car radio advertisement.
Whatever car you want to buy or sell, cut through the and just go to cars.coza and let's find what moves you. Cars.coza.
Africa Milani.
Weekday mornings,
4 to 6.
The way in which I think Musk presents a real danger to South Africans with his desire to suck up all our data through Starling. Lots of wonderful controversies and personalities. But certainly we can all admit that if you go to high school in Johannesburg at Bryanston or Pretoria Boys, there's something wrong with that education if you turn out a little monster like Elon Musk. Many of us would really want him back here, would we?
Oh, Patrick, I'll leave that can wide open for listeners to reflect on. Professor Patrick Bond, an economist and director of the Center for Social Change at the University of Johannesburg.
Africa Milani.
4 to 6 on 702.
Dear Journal, trying to be an adult at 3,469. Just had a fantastic 2-hour meeting. It was so productive that we accomplished nearly as much as I could have done with one well-written email.
Hating the corporate 9 to 5? Get covered at pineapple.co.za. It's easy and like 19 Rand a day, so it's 100% the insurance for you. Underwritten by Old Mutual Alternative Risk Transfer Insurer Limited, a licensed non-life insurer and authorized FSP. Premiums are risk profile dependent.
What if I told you a day is coming where Africa won't need aid from the US or any country? A day when we'll be supplying food to the very nations that have supported us for generations. Let us build the systems that sustain us, the economies that nourish us, and the leadership that lifts us. This is how we use aid to create transformation, how we move from reliance to resilience. For Africa believes that charity is not aid but investment. Investment in Africa's future. Together we can invest in a future where Africa thrives, not as a place in need, but as a partner shaping the world's future. Let's act now. Visit forafrica.org.
Whenever you hear deep in the heart and art of jazz,
Think Sia Makuzeni with the big band, Jasmine Horn, Alun Wad, The Baylor Project, Jose James sings Badu, Umusangare, Esperanza Spalding, Michelle Dugiocello, Elaine, Tezo, Munei, Mondli Ngobo, and many other spectacular icons. Think Standard Bank Joy of Jazz Festival, 4 stages at the Santon Convention Center, 26th, 27th and 28th September, and take me there. Book via Ticketmaster.
Some walks are just for exercise, others for leisure. But this walk is for something greater.
It's team building.
This July, you won't just take a step, you'll take a stand. You'll walk through history. You'll walk with it. On Sunday, 27 July, the 702 Walk the Talk, hosted by Freedom Park in the city of Tshwane, returns. It's a route that winds through the heart and soul of our capital city. From the sacred grounds of Freedom Park to the powerful steps of the Union buildings. Choose the 8-kilometer for those walking strong, the 6.7 kilometer in honor of Mandela Month, or the 4-kilometer for families and first-timers. Entries are 360 Rand for adults, 200 Rand for children under 12. Enter now on primemediaplus.com. 702 Walk the Talk, hosted by Freedom Park in the city of Tshwane, is where footsteps become footprints.
Your voice,
Your station.
your open line.
Walk the Talk with Clement Manyathela.
On 702.
24 minutes before 10 o'clock. Reverend Nongaba, you're calling from Kibla Park. Good morning.
Morning, Clement. How are you?
I'm all right, thanks. Go ahead.
Yes, but I just want to weigh in on what Minister Grunewald was talking about in relation to alleviate the overcrowding in prison. Mm-hmm. Yes, I agree that there is the overcrowding, but he's also saying he needs to revisit 1996 scrapping of corporal punishment, which I really don't agree, because for me, prevention is better than cure, Papa. Why not, as communities, talk about this overcrowding, Yama prisons, but especially juvenile prison, women, and everyone who commits crime? So why don't we ensure that we avoid going to these prisons as people, inculcate the spirit of do not do crime. Crime doesn't work. Starting from here at home, Papa, until wherever, because really crime doesn't work. Because now, if we are going to interfere with the constitution and all those things, that is going to be more cost effective.
Yeah, and also we can't just focus on retribution. Like, as you say, crime is a societal issue. What are we saying in our homes? What are we teaching our children? What are they witnessing in society? What's happening in our schools? It's a societal issue. You're not going to resolve this and deal with the population of our prisons by just ensuring that there's somehow corporal punishment and that deals with people that are awaiting trials. I mean, I think what he says there is he was referring to that act of beating prisoners who commit minor crimes. And my understanding is that this was an apartheid law that was ruled out in the early 90s. I don't know how that works, because it's like whenever we talk about people who still want people to be killed who commit crimes, like the death penalty. What happens to people who are innocent? Because the very reason that you're still awaiting trial is so that you can be found guilty or not guilty. So you've beaten someone, they've gone home, unless, of course, the minister says this is only going to happen in cases where we know conclusively that the person has committed a crime. But how do you know that when they've not gone through the system? So it's quite a tricky one. In fact, I want us to talk about it tomorrow on the Thursday Dialogue, Reverend. I'll bring in the different stakeholders and let's have a broader chat about it tomorrow on our Thursday Dialogue at 11 o'clock. Bonolo, you're calling from Midrand. What do you want to say about the minister?
Clement, I think we should accept as a society that our problems as a country are way past the agency's ability to solve them. Chiefly because they are part of the big problem. They make up a chunk of the problems. The Ramaphosa was quite quick to fire the deputy minister for traveling to the States, right? An approved trip. And yet he has a minister that continuously lies to the nation openly, and the calls have been made for him to let her go, and yet he's sitting on his hands. I mean, that is just unacceptable. There are many genuine causes and issues that black people face. There are many causes and issues that black women face. And by her just to trivialize those many genuine causes by making this about that, this is not one of them. Ramaphosa must just act, man.
Yeah.
I mean,
but will he, Bonolo? I mean, how many times? So here's the thing, Bonolo. You know, President Ramaphosa once established an inquiry into the State Security Agency, right? That committee, that inquiry was going to look into, because the State Security Agency was a mess. You know who was the DG at the State Security Agency? It was Arthur Fraser. The same committee the inquiry the president established against in the State Security Agency found that Arthur Fraser played a key role in the destruction of the State and Security Agency. Do you know what happened to Arthur Fraser? The president gave him a job and said, come and be Correctional Services Commissioner. And then the same inquiry the president established found that David Mahlobo also played a critical role in the destruction of the State Security Agency. What do you think the president did to David Mahlobo? He gave him a job, made him a minister, now made him a deputy minister now in his administration. Does that to you communicate that President Cyril Ramaphosa cares about ethical leadership?
Clement, now that you've said that, you're making me feel even more hopeless about the situation, because there isn't any demonstration from his side that he cares about the nation, that he wants to do something to turn the ship around.
Yeah, and he wants to come and say, I care about ethical leadership. Bonolo, let's hope, because we need him to act. And I think as South Africans, we need to put pressure for him to act. It's unacceptable that people behave in a manner like this. He himself agrees that this minister is messed up. He called him out. He said, write to me, give me a report. And yet he thinks it's so urgent to go and fire someone who went to the US without permission. And yet here's somebody here who's acting in this manner and the president is just sitting back. And that's why I've said, never believe politicians when they tell you they care about ethical leadership, because often they act based on their own political expediency, their own party interests, as opposed to what is in the best interest of this country. And this, once again, is a demonstration of exactly that. Tabucho, you're in Pretoria. What do you want to say? Good morning.
How are you, Clement?
I'm all right, man. Go ahead.
I'm good, man. Yeah, you made me emotional today. I normally don't call. One of the guys you mentioned, I want to weigh into the issue of forensic auditors that getting killed.
Yes.
One of the guys you mentioned is my man's immediate family. Please allow me not to explain the relationship.
Okay.
With Moses Chake. He was an internal auditor.
In the Free State.
In Free State. He was investigating the Estina Dairy case. And that's how he got killed. So what saddened us as a family members, whenever we get to hear about this Estina case in the news, they don't say anything about people who were killed with regard to that case. They only talk about the money that was taken, how to get them. So with us, there's nothing. You won't believe the last time we saw the people from the department, it was at the day of the federal, and that was it. Nothing. We never had anything from them. And when the CFO of that time and the head of department get arrested, we started to have a hope to say this might give a light to what happened to our brother, because he was reporting directly to that CFO and the head of department. They were arrested in relation to the same case. But it didn't give a light to SAPS. Nothing. Never came back to us. At some stage, I phoned the NPA spokesperson for Free State. And then I said, there are people who are arrested who my family member was reporting directly to them. Isn't this give a light to you what might happen? He said he will come back to me. Nothing. So, I don't understand, man. How does this thing work? Okay, we understand the fraud and all that stuff, but what about people who were killed when they were doing something good for the government?
Yeah, I'm so sorry to hear about that family member that I mentioned, Moses Tsake. And I think these are names we need to remember, because these are South Africans who literally were just trying to be patriotic citizens. I mean, we know about the Estina Dairy case. This is a man who was murdered as he was investigating the Estina Dairy case. Authorities, and Tebogo is right, we often just talk about money flows and court cases. do we actually talk a lot about people that have been killed? And yes, Babita Deokaran, you would argue that we do, but there are many others out there. And I think we need to keep their names and their memories alive. And we need to constantly check in with the families as well. Thank you so much for calling us, Tebogo. And this is, of course, in response to the city of Ekurhuleni's official. I told you about Mpho Mafole, who was an esteemed official in the employ of the Ekurhuleni municipality. He has been shot dead. And that is concerning because this is someone who was the head of forensic audits in the city of Ekurhuleni. I want to bring in now the mayor of Ekurhuleni, Nkosindiphile Xhakaza, who's joining us on the line about this matter. Mayor Xhakaza, thank you for your time and condolences. Good morning.
Morning, Clement, and thank you very much for affording us this opportunity. And I think we must greet your listeners at home. And we want to really, just begin by expressing our deepest condolences to the family, to the friends, the colleagues of Mr. Mpho Mafole. And he was a divisional head responsible for forensic unit in the city of Ekurhuleni.
Are there cases that he had taken up, Mayor, that may have put his life at risk? What are you aware of that perhaps he was investigating that may have been the result? I mean, we still don't know the motive of the shooting, but I mean, history is anything to go by. People who do this kind of job often get targeted because they're investigating some dangerous people.
Yeah, maybe just before I go any further, I just want, because I was listening to the messages, the heartfelt messages from your callers earlier, and it is truly heartbreaking that hardworking, honest professionals should have to fear for their lives while they're fighting for corruption in South Africa. And I think it's something that we do need to condemn and speak against. And indeed, Mr. Mafole's tragic passing is not just a loss for his loved ones, but a blow to the city of Ekurhuleni and everyone who's committed to building a renewed and more accountable and ethical public services. And I must indicate, while I don't want to draw any conclusion at this stage until the authorities give us the reports, but I must say that we're dealing with a lot of issues currently in the city. I was there in the studio not long talking about the 2 billion revenue shortfall. It's quite a big investigation that is currently happening, headed, of course, by that unit, and we've committed family that we will act and hold those accountable, and we make political statements. We rely on honest officials to assist us to carry.
How do those honest officials can get protected? What are you doing as the city to protect people who often have to take up cases that are so dangerous, and some people who get investigated may not want them to look into their matters? What's the city doing to protect those officials?
Yeah, no, I'm sure this is one area that we must continuously improve on, because it's not just the mayor, it's not just the city manager or the CFO, various other officials who are actually involved, including the head of the chief audit executive, going down to the head of the unit and the actual investigators themselves, that we must always protect them. That is why at all material times, they are, involved in the background work, and as leadership, we take the front in terms of pushing back and fighting corruption. Of course, from time to time, risk assessment is done by the appropriate body, and then they actually recommend what type of intervention we have to do. And I must indicate that it is an area that we'll have to be improving on across, not just in the city, because the standards that guide, but at the rate within which these are happening. And I must indicate that in the city we've had few instances. Not long, the CFO was shot. We reported these incidences. We made a follow-up. An official who was involved in the supplier chain was killed, and really it is becoming a worrying type of a trend. That
it is. It is quite worrying. And I hope that there can be protection for many of them, especially when the risk assessment indicates that their lives may be at risk. Mayor, thank you so much for making time for us. Nkosindiphile Xhakaza is the mayor of Ekurhuleni. It's 9 minutes before 10.
702 delivers
on the matters that matter to you.
Hi, my name is Linda Forson, and 702 is definitely my SMS. Save my soul and sanity on the roads in the morning and in the afternoons, because it gives me a time to listen and not get irritated while I'm driving or become irritating when I'm driving. So thank you, 702. Keep up the good work.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts,
so we can deliver more on what matters to you.
702 listens.
Let's walk the talk.
Be in the right place at the right time with Betway's jackpot slots. Stand to win your share of millions of rands in cash every week. Bet on selected slots every Thursday and Friday night between 7 and 10 p.m. and you could be our next big winner. The more you play, the more chances to win. Get way more only at Betway. Terms and conditions apply. Betway is licensed by the Mpumalanga Economic Regulator. No persons under the age of 18 are permitted to gamble. NRGP counseling line 0800 006 008. All events are fixed odds betting games.
Kickstart your small business with a starter bundle from Nedbank. Enjoy free transactions for 6 months, including free cash deposits and withdrawals and a free debit card with easy digital access and a dedicated banker to guide you along every step of the way. Open a Nedbank starter bundle with SA's best bank for SMEs. Apply on the Money app today. Nedbank. See money differently. Nedbank is a licensed FSP and credit provider. T's and C's apply.
Your voice.
Your station.
Your open line.
Walk the talk with Clement Manyathela
on 702.
7 minutes before 10 o'clock. Tafara says, Clement, the scary and depressing fact about the two topics you raised this morning is that they are both related. And they both lead to honest, highly skilled, hardworking people and getting killed because corruption and malfeasance, mostly by powerful and highly ranking politicians who are mostly protected by the ANC and its president. And then another one says, Clement, I'm concerned for my husband's life daily. He works for Public Works. You are not allowed to go against regional manager and direct manager. The staff there fear to make work decisions or go against them. My husband dreads going to work every day. Sure. Another one says, Clement, the shooting and killing of the forensic auditors is nothing but silencing them to cover the criminal activities by the corrupt public servants. The worrying factors are the law enforcement, which are unable to bring the perpetrators to book. It's time our government prioritizes these killings if they are serious about eradicating corruption. That's a message there from Madala in Mohlakeng.
Hi, Clement. Hope you're good. You are reading big names there. You are reading big names. I can tell you, the junior staff are being killed. Municipalities are dangerous. The junior staff are being killed, and it is what it is. You're listing the big guys. The junior staff who discover these things are being killed. At the hotels, food poisoning. Some get warned to say, leave the municipality. Do not go back to the office tomorrow. it's bad. It's really bad. It's really, really bad. It's really, really bad. So you can imagine so many big names. What about the junior staff? You know, we're talking to the level of trainee auditors here. It's so bad. Yeah, it's very bad.
Morning, Clement. I just want to pass condolences to the Mafole family. You know, I grew up with the uncles. I mean, I'm 67 and I went to school with them. So they both passed. This boy, I don't know, but he looks exactly like his uncle. I know the father. My heart is very, very sore. You know, I don't know what you're going to do with this country when young kids get killed. Eh? It's so sad. And my daughter wanted to do the same course. So I said, you know what? As long as the ANC is still in government, don't even bother because you're going to get killed. He's the same age as my daughter. I'm very, very, I'm heart sore.
Yeah, it's
I'm
heartbreaking.
aggrieved. I don't know what else to say. To the Mafole family, my heart goes out to you guys. It's Veronica. I used to stay in Tembisa, but now I live in Sprayview.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Ma'am Veronica. So I asked the producers to check with the ANC if they plan on taking any disciplinary action against Minister Nkabane. They've just responded to us and they're saying, hi, we're not aware of any plan at this point to do that. We'll be informed by the leadership soon. That's the ANC on whether or not they will discipline the same minister that they admit misrepresented facts, basically lied. They just don't want to use that word. They admit this minister has misrepresented facts in Parliament. Now they're saying, no, we're not actually aware of any disciplinary action that will take place. Wow.
You know what, Clement? I don't know whether it's arrogance or whether it's ANC's misfortune. I mean, how do you have someone at that senior level behaving in that manner? Not answering the question, eating while everyone is expecting an answer from you, telling you to go to Google and Google something, because even Google doesn't provide some sentence. You need to study something big so that you can just approve it and say, yes, it's correct. That was just a disrespect, a middle finger. And, I now sympathize with the DA why they want this minister to be removed. I think this minister should be removed. She's an embarrassment to be at that level, to be a minister and behave in this manner. It's just unthinkable. I don't know how ANC chooses ministers. Swiso.
Hi, Clement. The Minister of Higher Education using her race and her gender as a reason for being attacked is so dangerous in that she's basically saying that is how black women behave. And we all know that it's not true. She's basically reinforcing a stereotype that we're fighting so hard to address. It's so very dangerous.
It's wild. It's really wild. And yet her boss is still silent. But hey, wait. Because I do think that the boss at some point will act. It's just that the boss himself sometimes struggles with being decisive. He waits for you to put pressure on him before he acts. The same way that he waited when children were dying in townships because they're eating food that's poisoned. Waits until there's pressure. And then he comes and calls a family meeting. That's the leadership we have. And the same party this minister belongs to is comfortable with telling us that, we're not aware of any planned disciplinary hearings. Even though they admit, the caucus leader says, I reported to the head office that this minister has done something terribly wrong. Her behavior was wrong. That's because they take decisions that are in their political interests and not decisions that are in your interests. It's a minute before 10.
The Midday Report.
Weekdays,
12 to 1.
Would you agree that her conduct was not as you would expect an ANC MP to behave?
The information at our disposal, it does suggest that what she reported to Parliament was not entirely in line with what she had verbally committed when she presented a report to the Portfolio Committee on Higher Education.
So colloquially, we refer to that as a lie?
No, I'm saying what she presented in Parliament verbally, as opposed to what was then released later on, was not consistent.
The Midday Report
with Mandy Wiener.
12 to 1 on 702.
702.
PG Glass Repair, PG Glass Replace.
I'm Telani from PG Glass. Got a chip? We'll fix it with precision, and we offer cash deals on high-quality new windscreens.
Visit pg.co.za today for trusted service.
Year in, year out, we're fixing tires faster than a Formula One pit crew. My team is on top of things like tire whisperers. If an unforeseen accident were to happen in my workshop, at least I've got My Way business insurance to keep the wheels turning.
Visit myway.co.za or dial 0860 64 64 64 and get a quote today. My Way is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. T's, C's and standard rates apply. My Way. Live your way.
This is EWN.
Good morning, I'm Sfiso Zulu. 4 people accused of instigating the July 2021 unrest are due to appear in the Rwanda Magistrates Court today. Buisile Ekurhuleni from KwaZulu-Natal, along with Gauteng residents Jimmy Sibego, Busisiwe Kosana and Bukhadi Maisa, were handcuffed last month. They were expected to make their second court appearance today, facing charges of incitement to cause public violence. The unrest was triggered by the arrest of former President Jacob Zuma. Tabiso Goba has more.
One person has been convicted since the unrest 4 years ago. In 2023, Pietermaritzburg-based security guard Nkosindiphile Zuma was sentenced to 12 years in prison for his role in the chaos. The unrest, which took place in KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng, resulted in the deaths of more than 350 people and caused billions of rands in infrastructure damage. It alleged the 4 accused persons today ran a WhatsApp group called Zuma Real Activist 100%. The state says they used this group to circulate inflammatory messages which contributed to the unrest. Tabiso Goba, Eyewitness News, Road Reports.
The Judicial Service Commission is expected to begin with interviews to fill the Deputy Chief Justice position. President Cyril Ramaphosa nominated 4 candidates for the position, which became vacant with the appointment of Mandisa Maya as the country's Chief Justice in September last year. Currently, Justice Mbuyiseni Madlanga is acting as Maya's deputy but is due for retirement this month after serving a non-renewable term of 12 years on the Constitutional Court bench. Zolega Kotashe reports.
Section 174, subsection 3 of the Constitution grants the President the authority to appoint the Chief Justice and their deputy, as well as the President of the Supreme Court of Appeal and their deputy, after consultation with the Judicial Service Commission and leaders of parties represented in the National Assembly. President Cyril Ramaphosa's nomination of 4 candidates has triggered the 2-day sitting of the Judicial Service Commission, with Gauteng Judge President Dunstan Mlambo expected to be the first candidate who will be interviewed by the JSC. Northern Cape Judge President Pule Tlaletsi will follow, while the third and final candidate, Free State Judge President John Musi, will be interviewed on Thursday. The President had nominated 4 candidates for the second highest position in the judiciary. However, Supreme Court of Appeal President Mahube Mulemela declined the nomination. Zoleka Kotashe, Eyewitness News.
The SACP says the ANC chasing out its members in a recently held elections meeting in Mpumalanga was a failure of leadership. ANC's first Deputy Secretary Nobuhle Nkabane, who is the one who booted out the SACP members, has defended herself, saying there was nothing untoward about her actions. EWN also understands she's also received support from National Working Committee members who want the ANC to deliberate on the consequences of an SACP that wants to contest it for power. The SACP's national spokesperson, Mbulelo Ntlazana.
So it is not something we consider to be a decoration of the ANC in terms of its own conduct. When they decide to embarrass, as it were, those comrades, when in fact those comrades did not volunteer to go to those meetings. They were there on the account of a decision of the ANC to invite them.
And Iran's President Masoud Pezeshkian has granted a final approval to a law to suspend cooperation with the United Nations nuclear watchdog. The president promulgated the legislation suspending work with the International Atomic Energy Agency. This means the measure drawn up in the aftermath of the Iran-Israel war last month is now in effect. Gold is trading at $3,338.09 an ounce. The rand is at 17.61 to the dollar, 24.19 to the pound, 20.76 to the euro. Brent crude oil is at $67.19 a barrel.
And in the traffic in Sharon Lee, we still have got delays on the N1 North coming out of Malibongo Drive. It's due to roadworks as well as an accident along this route. Please be on the lookout. About a 10-minute hold up there. While traveling in the city of Tshwane, the N1 South towards Linwood Road, 4 lanes of this route closed off to traffic for roadworks. So traffic is being diverted onto Linwood Road. Please be patient if you're traveling here or try to avoid altogether.
A partly cloudy day in store for Gauteng. The temperatures will peak at highs between 19 and 20 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour: 4 people accused of instigating the July 2021 unrest are due to appear in the Rwanda Magistrates Court today.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
What are the matters that matter to you?
702 listens.
You're with Clement Manyathela
On 702.
Let's Walk the Talk, streaming on the Prime Media Plus app,
DSTV channel 856,
92.7 and 106 FM.
Six minutes after 10 o'clock, Dumelang, welcome to the second hour of the Clement Manyathela Show. Thank you for staying with us here on 702. I hope your morning is still going well so far. Thank you for your contribution on the 702 open line this morning. Yeah, one of those days when emotions are just high. Yeah, I think ANC will give you palpitations. Just true. They'll give you the high. Because sometimes things are so simple. So simple. You have a minister who's messing up, who doesn't respect Parliament, who tells Parliament, go Google. You take action against them, especially when you're a party that has been humbled at the polls. 40% from enjoying the majority in the country, and you still think you've got space to not take action against unethical leaders, against leaders that don't take Parliament seriously, leaders that are arrogant. Well, good luck to you. Good luck to you at the next polls, because clearly you have not learned anything. It is so frustrating. It really is. Remember, at 11 o'clock, we're going to do our listener's choice feature, and one of our listeners has asked that we look at this Rwanda DRC peace deal that's been brokered by the US with the help of Qatar. So I'm going to bring in someone who's going to break it down for you. What does it mean for the United States? Because there's no free lunch. In fact, they're going to have access to the critical minerals in the DRC. So how has this deal being positioned, and what does it mean for Rwanda? What does it mean for the M23 rebels that haven't even signed the deal? So can it hold without the M23? Those are some of the conversations we're going to have at 11 o'clock on our Listener's Choice feature. 8 minutes now after 10.
702.
The Clement Manyathela Show.
Let's walk the talk.
Right now, we start the conversation with the former Gauteng Premier and Minister, now businessman, Tokyo Sexwale, who's in studio with me this morning. How are you doing, Mr. Sexwale? Welcome to 702. Are you well?
I'm very good.
Yeah.
And you?
I'm perfect.
Nice to feel welcome.
You used to be a host, on 702, hey? But you were in the old building.
Yes, it was a good moment at the time as Premier of the province, and there was a suggestion made by some of the shareholders and producers.
Yeah.
That I had attended a breakfast.
Yeah.
Not breakfast show, just a breakfast, corporate breakfast of 702. And somebody came and said, look, Tokyo, we can give you 1 hour every evening on Wednesday.
Yeah.
And they named the show not the Clement
Manyathela Show.
I don't know what Manyathela you, but it was called Talk to Tokyo.
Talk to Tokyo. That was so revolutionary.
Yes,
that was so revolutionary. All right, welcome back to 702.
Thanks a lot, yeah.
I mean, you're coming in when emotions are still a bit high, because we were just talking on the open line about the Minister of Higher Education and what's happened in Parliament. Yesterday she was claiming that, they are taking me because I'm a woman. It's misogyny. But yeah, and I just think sometimes your party stresses us, man.
Hey.
Yeah, I don't know when you guys are going to get it, that South Africans just want you to do the job. Just take action against people who are doing wrong, fight corruption, and we'll be fine.
There are two words here, Clement. I didn't come to talk about the minister.
No, I'm hijacking you.
Yeah, I know it's hijack. But let me say that it's been a long while. I apologize. I think it's more than a year you've been trying to get into the studio.
Yes.
But finally you catch me in the streets and we're here.
I dragged you here.
Two things. It's, three. Minister, higher education. So let's go to the last word, education. We have to conduct ourselves like educated people. Can't just be in charge of portfolio and you are dishing out something that is the opposite to education. It's worse, second word, the higher. It's not just education, it's a higher one. We expect high performance, more accountability, more responsibility. And the first word, of course, is a minister. We tend to forget when we get to the government. You say I was in the studio when I was premier at the time. We just set up a government in 1994. People since then, a lot of people, it has become commonplace today, seem to forget that you're a servant of the people. You're not a boss. So we come in, I'm the boss, I'm in charge. Somehow this thing got lost. We've got to go back to basics. And the spade must be called a spade. The president must crack the whip. Okay, must crack, I repeat. The president must crack the whip. You know why they call him spineless? Why they call him names? He's not that. But they call you names because you don't act. Crack the whip, do the right thing at all times. So you can't have a minister, and I didn't come here to talk about that, but I had the emotions when I was in the car, behaving like that. Parliament is where you account. You must remember that you account. You are elected by Parliament to be a member of Parliament. You are responsible to the portfolio committees. Those committees are Parliament itself. And then you answer the way you want to. So it's like you show no responsibility, no courtesy, no sense that I've come to serve here. You're the boss. So maybe she has got to be reminded. Maybe she has got to put in the cooler for a while. She needs to be educated herself. But when I say the president must crack, I don't care who the president is. Happens to be Ndati Ramaphosa today. Talk to her. Talk to the nation. Take responsibility, and we should not hide behind the bush.
Well, he's waiting for more pressure to pile up before he acts, because that's usually how he does these things.
You see, that's how people make all types of joke about a head of state. You are kicking the can down. So let's not just, a lot of us, we want to be nice. Face this minister. Teach her, educate her. This is a higher education calling. And the one who employs her must crack the whip. Don't wait for reports. You can see the television where she's talking in Parliament. Parliament is real, so you can't say, I'll still get the report. There is a report.
There it is. Yes. Report. Where? When it's clear there. You've just seen how she's behaved. But you want a report?
Parliament is legal. Everything said there is law.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about the national dialogue. The president has announced this dialogue, wants us to talk. He says, let's now define what the next stage of our democracy is going to look like. You've got some concerns about this. Well, I mean, you've been part of some historic dialogues that have taken place over the years. Do you think this is what South Africa needs right now?
We are not short of dialogues in the country. We are not short of words. We've had dialogues for ages, since the commencement of the current situation in South Africa. I can go back to 1912. I've just written an open and candid letter to CIS Brigadier Bam, who is the convener of what they call the Eminent Persons Group, which has been established by the president. In his thinking, he felt that we need to talk. But the truth is that it was also put forward by former President Thabo Mbeki. A number of people have been toying with this idea. Talking is not a problem. In 1912, when the ANC was formed, it was a dialogue. That dialogue was in response of another dialogue that had taken place. The first dialogue was the one of the whites. It was racist. They had decided to form a country out of 4 republics, Natal, Cape, Free State, and the Transvaal. And they formed a country called the Union of South Africa. It was that dialogue. But they excluded us from that dialogue. Okay, 2 years later, after 1910, we dialogued as black people, responding to that, to set a stage of what kind of South Africa we need to build. The ANC was formed. So that's the first dialogue. Fast forward to 43 years later, 1955, another dialogue. This time to go forward more than 1912, to say exactly, in exact terms, what type of a state you would like to establish. The people shall govern, share, land, all those type of things, education, health. That's the Freedom Charter. They banned us just for dialoguing. And that dialogue was about an inclusive South Africa, when theirs was exclusive of 1910. And they formed a republic through their own dialogues in 1961, changing the country's name from Union of South Africa to what you call Republic of South Africa. They forced us underground. We took up weapons again, okay? And of course, we forced them back to the table for discussions in 1994 or in 1991. We came with the process of the convention, CODESA. That one was a very serious one. Watershed, because it resulted in formation in the writing down of the Constitution, the one that is governing us right now. So we've had dialogues in the past. The problem is not, of course, National Development Plan itself came as a result of dialogues. There are many other dialogues that have happened, not just nationally, but sectorally, in different parts of the country, different sectors and so on. The problem is not dialogues. It is implementation of things that we're dialoguing about. Implementation, and executive, more implementation.
Before we speak about implementation, how did we get here? Because part of the problem is that there is a president who wants us to have a conversation as a nation about where to next. But the reason we need this conversation is because there are certain things that have not been done. The reason we need this conversation is because there have been certain failures over the last 30 years when the ANC has been in power. And I'm not seeing the place where we are also asking the critical question of how did we get here? So you're trying to avoid accountability, but hey, let's move forward. But how do we move forward when we're not able to see what actually worked, what actually didn't work in the past so that we don't repeat the same mistakes?
Clement Manyathela, you see, you are Nyathela now. You see, you couldn't have put it better, because in the same letter, which was published last week, which I wrote to the convener, says Bregelebam, the question I'm asking and what I believe should be interrogated is not how we can build another 30 years from now. The age group of the people who are in the eminent persons group is about 70. We'll all be dead in 30 years. It's fine. It's the era of the youth. Now, it's nice to talk about that, how to go forward. But they say those who forget the mistakes of history are bound to commit the same mistakes, because you rush headlong without realizing what happened, taking stock, and reflecting. Now, the question I've asked is, of course, how did we end up here? Before we say, how should we go forward? We're stuck. We call these things euphemistically, I say, challenges. It's a crisis, a deep-seated crisis. How did we get here? One, like I said, we've never implemented what is contained in that Constitution in terms of the Bill of Rights. Yes, some things have been implemented, but we've avoided those things that needed to be changed. The land question has not been properly settled in this country. We said that there must be proper empowerment of the people of South Africa. That has not been done adequately. I'm going to say that from this side of our table. You should realize I'm sitting around the table with you. Executive decisions have been taken by governments over and over again. Parliament has put a stamp of approval on those decisions. Ministers have taken decisions, things have not been implemented. There are plans and plans and plans and plans. Yeah, but then of course people go into offices to do precisely this. Yeah, to become bosses of people. Then once you've reached that level, it becomes a free flow of wrong things. One, you start appointing the wrong people, because my cousin, my sister, it's full in the press right now. My cousin, my mother, my sister, my brother, that type of thing. So you start owning this thing. Number two, you start giving contracts and monies, and it's all about government is about budgets, and budgets is about distribution of public money, taxpayers' money. You distribute it anyhow to your friends or relatives, that type of thing. You appoint malcontents, people who are incompetent. They know nothing about their doing. Some people have got very huge degrees, but they don't know how to implement them. Got good marks at university, but doesn't mean that you know the job here. Get somebody from university who knows the job, not somebody who's got good grades but who doesn't know the job. Or people know their jobs, but they decide to avoid because job has got accountability, it's got responsibilities, it's got rules, regulations, laws. They avoid all those things. So you're going to end up doing as you please. Now, this behavior in Parliament is this person is as I please. I can answer anyhow. And I think we needed this medicine to see them in real action. So this is how they are. So imagine what people will be doing behind their offices in privacy, where they have staff to take care of. You've got directors, chief directors under you. People are frightened. They're scared of you. So things start falling apart. The center doesn't hold. As a result of all the cacophony of these things, it's very easy to steal money. When I came here, you started saying how unsafe it is for people to report. Report what? If you're a whistleblower in this type of situation, you are in danger. It's a health hazard. It's a life hazard. Mm-hmm. So we've reached a point where everybody more or less has accepted
that
something must give. Yeah. Otherwise, something will break.
But here's the challenge there, where it becomes tricky is because there are many who have. I mean, the former president, Thabo Mbeki, would agree that things have at some point fallen apart. But then it's still the same people like you guys who said vote for the ANC. So things have fallen apart. You see that something has not gone right, but you still go to South Africans and say, vote for this organization. Campaign for them. Now we're sitting with an ANC that's still the biggest party in the GNU that behaves in a manner that we're seeing some of the ministers from the ANC behave. So you told people to vote for them.
Mm-hmm. I'll answer for myself and for many who believe in what I'm going to say to you. Clement, you must understand the ANC is a contested territory. There are constant fights from the time it was formed until right now. It's a living organism. From time to time, there are certain people who take the steering, the controlling steering of this huge bus. And if it's good people, it's fine. There are times when the steering is taken over by people who mean bad for society. The ANC has experienced all those things. There have been fights, very bitter fights. Some of us have been victims of those types of fights because you talk inside there. It's a fight. The people who want to steal, the people who want to do wrong, the people who want to hide the wrong that they do will do anything and everything to protect themselves, so people will be dragooned into following a particular wrong thing, and that leader gets votes. It's all about, it's a zero-sum game, this thing. So if enough people have been given Chicken Licken or McDonald's, that's it, they're going to vote that person. Your voice gets drowned. Many good men and women in this country who are members of the ANC have raised these things that are raised by yourself outside, long before you raise them. The end result has been that these fights have led to certain people feeling, it's enough. It has broken into pieces. There are people left, they form COPE, there are people left, they form FF, this one, from this. It's the ANC that is breaking apart. It's not only the good people who are leaving. Some of them are bad who are leaving. But it's a constant fight inside the ANC to stop the rot, happening right at the bottom of the organization, right until the office of the presidency. Okay, this day, it's quite clear. You can see what is happening out there. We get people you can't hold to account, people who want to rule anyhow. They rule us. They're not even governing. They want to be rulers. If you're a president, you appoint a cabinet, those people are beholden to you. Very few people will challenge such a boss because the boss here's another part of the rot. The boss is responsible. If you're a minister or if you're a premier, you've got MECs, and if you're a mayor, you've got mayoral people. That person who appoints you determines your future. The bond of your house, the car, private schools for children. So very few people are prepared to stand up and say that. I think quite often when they are gone, they start speaking.
So based on the description you've given of the ANC and what's led to people leaving some, staying, do you then say, can you confidently sit there and say this is a party to vote for?
I still belong to that party. I'm still part of the fight inside the party, the debates.
But given that mess, because sometimes I feel like as South Africans, we pay the price for the infighting in the ANC.
Well, it is also paying the price. Look at the numbers. We're paying the price ourselves. So we're trying to say to people, look what is happening. We used to be in the 60 percentile, right up there. Now it's coming low. This 40% was just a marker. The polls are indicating that we're going even lower than that. Okay? So it's a question of at what stage does this thing give? We're trying to save this organization.
You think it can still be saved?
Well, there's been talks about renewal and so on. Even that
they've been talking about
yes,
that for
even that
10
renewal.
years.
Yeah, I understand. Even that renewal itself is if people who are in charge of renewal, like I said, if the arsonists want to return as fire brigade leaders
Fire
here,
brigade leaders,
which is what we must be careful about. This
isn't that the case of the dialogue?
Yes,
arsonists
absolutely
are returning to the crime scene as the fire brigade team.
Yes, from the tattered clothes of the one who started the fire last night, returning dressed up in the bright and flashy uniforms of fire brigade people. So we've got to be very careful that this dialogue must not be led by people who, in the first place, are responsible for the causality of the problems. So that's what I'm saying to Brigadier Bam. Otherwise, this thing will fall flat on its face. There's a good chance that the dialogue may produce something, but there's also another chance that things can go worse.
What could it produce? Because I'm just trying to think here. Like, okay, fine, we're going to have to talk about our challenges, but as you said, we know what the problems are. For me, what I'm looking forward to with the dialogue is how is government going to treat whatever it's going to gather from South Africans? Because you can't just say, oh yeah, we've heard you said this, but we're not going to do anything about it. And how are they going to rationalize that in Parliament? Because, and I use the same example all the time. If South Africans say, we want the death penalty back, again, you've opened the door. You said, let's talk. Are you willing to take the risk to implement what South Africans want? Because you must still go to Parliament and advocate for, okay, the majority of people have said this. Or is it going to be a matter of, oh, as the ANC or as the GNU, we must still sit and say and pick and choose what is better to implement, what is not better to implement?
Fortunately, we're not going into that dialogue. Remember, it's not the best thing. It's not the best thing that you want. If it was according to me, why should I dialogue? Let's implement what we've done. But because they've come with this thing, don't be a spoiler. Let's find a way of going to direct this thing. Like I say, we're going to go there to make sure that the arsonist who started this fire last night doesn't come back as a well-dressed leader of the fire brigade today. That's very, very important.
They are, though.
But we are going there. Also, it's not a country that is absent or void of basics. We have a constitution. The dialogue takes into account that there is a constitution in the country, and it is going to form the basis of a lot of those discussions. So we're not discussing in a vacuum. This constitution has got all sorts of rules, regulations. It's got sections which are dealing with human rights.
It can also be changed, right?
Of course.
Especially if people say crime is a big thing, JBV,
let me finish the point I was making, Clement. That's the foundation, the basis upon. We are not standing in a street and starting something new. I agree with you. There is a constitution that must guide. And I'm saying a lot of things which are there in the constitution. They're so powerful, we should have done them. So the questions are going to be how to get here. Why were these things not done? Of course, second is whatever is going to be discussed there must find some way of being legislated. And the government must be held accountable to that. But of course, the dialogue itself doesn't have power to force a government. That's why it's important for the government to be part of that thing, to give us an assurance. As this thing has been established by the president, so he can't run away from this one. He established this thing, the government-led thing as well, or government participation, not led, so that the results of those discussions must find expression in implementation in some kind of law. Legislation is going to be passed related to that. Coming to the point that we have raised, this dialogue is a risk. It's a risk as well. Doesn't mean that everything's going to be honky-dory. People can come again with the death penalty. I was in their death cells. I understand this thing. They say, let this thing come back. So we've got to in relation to the Constitution, how do we see the death penalty?
Because it's weird to, and by the way, I don't agree with the death penalty coming back, but it's weird to open the door and say, we genuinely want to hear where you think this country needs to go. And when people tell you where they think the country needs to go, and you say, oh no, that's actually not going to work because it's against our constitution. But you've opened the door to say, I want to hear you.
We assume, the assumption is that what is in the constitution arising over the dialogue of 1984 is good. Unless we're saying the constitution is a bad thing, then the discussion must be.
Some people believe there are weaknesses with our
weaknesses I accept. So people can come with those things. But as long as the dialogue is not overthrowing the constitution,
absolutely,
it's not like the apartheid constitution, all of it had to go. all of it. This time we've got a good basis. 90% of this constitution is good. There will be other things. The risk we are taking is that other things will come. Therefore, we've got to advise one another about the constitutionality, the correctness, the advisability of those things. So that's the risk we are taking.
700 million rand is what is estimated here. You know your comrades. They will always find any opportunity to steal. I'm already worried because we're heading to the elections now. If history is anything to go by, oh my goodness. The 700 million rand that's estimated is going to go to the pockets of some politicians.
In the same letter I've written to Brigalia, I quote a philosopher, it is Hegel, the German. History teaches so many things, but history also teaches that human beings learn nothing from history. The 700, people stole from funds which were kept for Mandela's funeral. Do you understand what is happening?
COVID-19.
People would steal money from COVID. People steal money from Esidumeni, the hospitals. They'll steal money from schools. Things are falling apart. That's why I say this center is not holding. We've got to hold this country together. So this 700, there must be an accounting system away from government because, remember, the cause of these problems, a lot of people, many good men and women inside this government, but there are people who are sitting there, known thieves or suspected ones or unknown ones. You need a proper, independent accounting mechanism so that we can talk about cost cutting, cost control, cost containment insofar as this dialogue is concerned. Otherwise, we can end up with not just a chicken egg, but with a huge ostrich egg in our face. And if this one fails, God save us all. Because then the dialogue of the streets will take place. So we've seen that. I'm not threatening, I'm just observing. I'm scared of the dialogue of the streets because it comes with pangas, with guns, with lawlessness. July, it showed us. It was just an exercise, just a small indicator, and things have gone worse. Therefore, if we are not mindful about what can be the outcome if this dialogue doesn't go well, then we have learned nothing from history.
It's 10:32. Let's get the latest in Eyewitness News headlines. When I come back, we'll give you an opportunity to weigh in this conversation. You can give us a call on 011-883-0702. Maybe you've got a question, maybe you have got an input. You can send a WhatsApp as well on 072-702-1702. Sfiso, hi.
Thanks, Clement. Good morning. 4 people accused of instigating the July 2021 unrest are due to appear in the Rwanda Magistrates Court today. The suspects from Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal were handcuffed last month. They are expected to make their second court appearance this morning, facing charges of incitement and the cause of public violence. The SACP insists contesting state power was unavoidable as its alliance partner, the ANC, seeks to draw a line between the two parties ahead of next year's municipal elections. EWN understands members of the ANC National Working Committee are in support of its first Deputy Secretary General Nobuhle Nkabane, who's called for a ban on SACP members participating in the ANC's election preparations. And 2 people have died in France due to heat-related illnesses as the country registered its second hottest June since records began in the 1900s. The Minister for Ecological Transition says more than 300 people have been treated by firefighters. And those are the headlines. This EWN and more at 11 or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
Traveling on the N1 North in the Sharonley area, we still have got roadworks right after Malibongwe Drive. There's also slow-moving traffic along the M1 South approaching the Marlborough Drive exit due to an earlier accident. If you're traveling in the Bedfordview area, delays on the N12 and R24 ways towards the Kilulis turn off. While traveling in the city of Tshwane, do remember that we've got roadworks taking place on the N1 South. In fact, it's long-term roadworks. They are right near Linwood Road. As a result, the road has been closed off to traffic. 4 lanes have been closed off there, so please be on the lookout, and traffic is being diverted onto Linwood Road. If you can, try to avoid this route. Try using the N14 towards areas like Centurion. I'll have more updates at the top of the hour.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Winter is here, and so are the season's hottest deals. Whether you are powering through early mornings or cozying up on cold nights, Takealot is your one-stop winter shop for heaters, appliances, winter skincare, and everyday essentials. Shop smart, stay warm, and make winter your season with Takealot.
Hollywood Bets invites you to discover a world full of secret surprises with Spinazonke Mystery Parcel. You could win a share of 1 million rand in cash and bonus bets. Spin your way into spectacular success when you explore and bet 2 rand or more on selected Spinazonke games. Dive into scintillating suspense every Wednesday between 5:30 p.m. and 8:30 p.m. and Sunday from 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. Unlock your winning streak and bet now. T's and C's apply. Hollywood Sportsbook is a licensed betting operator. Hollywood Bet supports responsible gambling. No persons under the age of 18 years are permitted to gamble. Winners know when to stop. South African Responsible Gambling Foundation toll-free counselling line 0800 006 008 or WhatsApp help to 076 675 0710.
As the official retail partner of the Springboks, Pick n Pay is proud to back the Boks and give you the chance to be the ultimate smart supporter with Pick n Pay ASAP. Money or the Boks on 702. WhatsApp your name, ID number and the word ASAP to 072 702 1702. You could face the ultimate choice, a mystery Springbok supporter prize or Pick n Pay ASAP vouchers worth up to 2,000 Rand. It's time to show your Boks spirit. Money or the Boks with Pick n Pay ASAP. Friday on 702 Drive with John Perlman. T's and C's on primemediaplus.com.
You're with Clement Manyathela.
702. Let's walk the talk.
All right, it's 24 minutes before 11 o'clock. We are having a conversation this hour with Tokyo Sexwale, who is a former Gauteng Premier and Minister. We've been talking, I hijacked him to talk a little bit about this lack of accountability in the African National Congress and what that communicates to you as a voter, as a member of the public. But broadly, we've been having a conversation about this dialogue that the president announced and what it's intended to achieve. My favorite quote is what you said about the arsonists, right? Arsonists who return to the crime scene as the fire brigade.
Dressed up in immaculate.
Dressed up. Okay, I've got some WhatsApp voice notes that have come through. Please, can you put on your headphones there?
Okay.
I'm going to play some WhatsApp voice notes. We've got some calls as well on 011-883-0702.
Good morning, Clement. Can you please ask your guest there, what does he think about amending the constitution that says South Africa for all who live in it? And 2, South Africa is for all who live in it, but South Africa first. South Africans first. How does that sound?
So the preamble, South Africa belongs to all who live in it. He's suggesting, how about yes to all who live in it, but the priority to South Africans first?
I'm one of the people who were there at the drafting of the constitution. Was a member of CODESA, chairman of this province at that time. So we're members of the negotiations commission, which was run first under Thabo Mbeki. Cyril became, therefore, the successor to that. I don't think we can give such an answer to that question here. It's a moot question, because South Africa belongs to all of it. To all of its people come from the Freedom Charter. South Africa belongs to all who live in it. But legally, people challenge that because it means anybody who lives in this country therefore owns it because it belongs to. Maybe that has got to be discussed again without throwing anybody out of this country. You know what is happening in America, people are being pushed up and so on. To maybe redefine the proper ownership of this country. Because there is a point in saying that anybody comes here and of course now you belong. Many constitutions don't say that. So it's a point of discussion,
Yeah. Here's another one.
Clement, I hear Mr. Tokyo Sexwale. Morning. The question is, what happened to the state capture? We spent 1 billion, but there's nothing that has been implemented from the state capture. So what is it that is going to be implemented in this? It's just a talk shop. We are going to talk and nothing will happen. Because Cyril will say, no, I'm leaving for 2019. They must implement those who are coming. And then the one that is going to come will say, no, it was not my dialogue. We will try to implement it. It will be a shift to a shift. We have been talking to this country for years, as Mr. Sexwale have said, but there's nothing. take that 700 million and do the right things. Fix the country with that 700 million. It means the money is there. Fix the country, and that's it. Stop talking. There's no time for talking, but it's time for action.
Yeah. You hear the frustration there about the amount of money.
People are justified. This whole input, they're justified in expressing frustration, anger. Those want to be bitter. They've got the right to do that because we've said we've been down this road before. Now, it's very easy for us to stand up and say, we're not going there. Stop this thing and so on. I think we've got one fighting chance. One fighting chance. I don't want to be there myself because I've said that things have not been implemented and we appoint people who keep on repeating all these things when there are problems. And there's dialogue. People have got the right to say that. So I believe that one fighting chance. This is one time when we are saying to the government, the governing authorities of this country, this is it. If these things don't happen, we've got to find another way. Is it through a dialogue? Perhaps this should be given a chance. Let us run through it. It's correct. Monies are being spent over and over again, and without us seeing the real substance of where this money is going. Therefore, I share the view of the frustration. And he's right, of course, the president is an outgoing president. He's in the departure lounge. He's established this thing. It's like kicking a can down the road.
Because course, he won't be there.
Let alone the 30-year plan. We'll all be dead, and we think that we can do things for the youth. That's why the driving seat of the dialogue must be led by the youth. We must be champions of the youth because it is their future. It is their future. So let's stop fooling around here.
I mean, the NDP, we've missed all the targets.
It's all there.
All the targets of the NDP.
It's all there. Okay? It's all there. The NDP, I mean, how much has been implemented insofar as that is concerned. But coming back to the Zondo Commission, sadly, over 90% of the people mentioned there come from my party. So it comes from my party. All these malfeasance, all these malcontents, all these people who are fingered as potential criminals come from my party. It's a sorry sight. But it says something. It's not the journalists who are saying this. It's the judge. After a process of people presenting, and they come to the conclusion that the problem is here. So if you go down 40%, don't be surprised in the streets. It's real. Face this thing and the numbers are coming further down. So I'm saying whilst the ANC has got its own, we have got our job to do insofar as whatever we can renew. Let's also not postpone the issues of the nation, of the nation on behalf of the ANC.
It's the elections next year. Are you going to be telling South Africans to vote for the ANC again?
ANC must not try to solve its internal problems through this dialogue. People will see it, and they're already voicing their opinions so far as that is concerned. I want to repeat, like Mandela used to say, there are very good people. This is an organization of good people. Let me tell you who are members of the ANC, who are not corrupt. They are there, they vote. They believe in this thing. It's you, it's a teacher, it's a nurse, it's a petrol car attendant, it's a taxi driver. This is us. I was the leader of the ANC at national and provincial level. These are these people. That's the ANC. They've done nothing wrong. The story, it is from them that things are being done. Therefore, there are malfeasance. There are malcontents inside the ANC who protect one another. They'll do anything.
So why must those people who are honest then keep the organization?
That's why the ANC must renew itself.
But they failed.
Well,
10 years. 10 years have been talking about renewal.
The more it fails, the numbers
have you seen it? So what I'm asking is, next year, are you going to go out in Soweto again with Thabo Mbeki and Kgalema Motlanthe and tell South Africans, vote for this party, when you have seen their attitude, when you have seen what's broken about the organization? Because people listen to you guys. Like, I know of people who, when Thabo Mbeki stands there, the former president, says, give this organization a chance, they love the man so much that just on that word they're going to do it. And now the same former president will come back and is frustrated by the organization, and they're left with, oh, but he told us to vote for them. And here we are now. And I'm not saying this to decampaign the ANC in any way, because I say this about the DA, I say this about many other organizations. I'm just, right now, we are talking about how things have fallen apart. would it make sense for you to go out to the streets then and say, vote for those organizations?
The next General Council of the ANC is coming. I think we have got to go back to basics and say exactly what you're saying. You now expect us to go and vote for these people, for these Zondo people. We'll talk it there. If renewal is going to be a renewal, then we must face the facts, call a spade, and people should realize that you can't expect us to go. That's why the numbers are not just coming down. Leaders are also beginning to realize that it's a lost cause. But I want to say, the ANC, the majority of the people, they're not a lost cause. That's why the ANC must take a knee and bow down to the views of the people, as it has always done throughout its own dialogues in 1912, 1955, and so on. The ANC must come to terms with the fact that, you have been given enough of a rope. You're going to hang yourself. So the point is, we're going to the next conference of the ANC, where these things have got to be spoken in real. Don't just throw these problems into society and say, let's dialogue ourselves. You dialogue yourself. So the ANC,
you're the arsonists.
Yes, maybe. There are lots
maybe
of
they're the arsonists.
No, not all of us, but there are arsonists
but
in my party.
Which party was running this country for 30 years?
Let's not.
And now they say, hey, let's talk.
Let's leave semantics. Of course, I agree with you. Give me a chance. I agree with you that lots of the arsonists, that's why I'm saying, who has been the governing party since 1994? That's what this dialogue is going to have to do. Read the letter I've written. Yeah. Let's find out how we got here. And what I didn't ask is the following question. Let's find out who got us here. I'm asking that question in the letter. I say I'll avoid the question of who got us here in persons, because it will add more heat than light. We need light during that discussion.
And it's not going to help us much, because some of them are gone. They're in other parties. And the ANC has always believed in what? Collective responsibility.
All those things will have to be interrogated.
Yeah. Who do you think is...
We can't risk our lives, our future, our youth, everything has been risked. And continue to risk this thing and not take into account what people are saying.
Yeah.
I'm saying, Clement, on this point, you're not the first person. You're not the only person saying this. The percentages are talking exactly what you're saying. Therefore, if you don't learn from the mistakes of history, you're going to go into the errors in the future.
Musibiadi, you're calling us from Rwanda. Good morning.
Yes, good morning, Madimecha. Good morning. I'm just concerned about our ruling party. Ne? We had our previous president, like Mr. Muntatembeki, ne? Tokyo and the life. In particular, we all know that already he was an economist, and our economy is in tatters. We all know that. Why can't they swallow the pride that they talk about because I feel that our ruling party is in the darkness. We are in the wilderness because of them. They are all in the wilderness. They must swallow their pride, swallow their anger, but instead, Baba Bita last night also vote about convince or vote. Instead of Baba use to reshape this economy. Baba and this 700 million year dialogue is a waste of money because of now. These people, they don't listen. They don't have receptive ears. So how about solid their pride? But our economy, we are in the wilderness.
So who's gonna be the Moses? Thank you, Mammo Sebiadi, for your call in Rwanda. Who do you think is the Moses who's gonna lead the ANC, as Mammo Sebiadi say, out of this wilderness? Let's look at the future now. Petrus Motsepe is being mentioned. Paul Mashatile is gonna definitely run.
That's where the problem has been. You see, we are so mesmerized with the Mandela era. The one man who came out of jail, the one who released Mandela, he comes out. And we believed in him. We drafted all types of laws thinking that presidents will always be like him.
Biggest mistake.
No one man will save this country. No one man has ever said. This is not even Hollywood. It's just a script. No person, we're talking about humanity. There's not one person.
And I remember when Cyril Ramaphosa came in, some were saying, yeah, he's a billionaire, so we are safe.
Talk about billionaires. The point is the following. You are right. This collective thing should not just be a semantic. Should not just be mere talk, collective leadership. It's nonsensical. if it's going to be collective leadership and yet we all bow down to one person and hope that he'll give us jobs, opportunities, I'll be a mayor, I'll be a councillor, he'll make me an ambassador, a minister, an MEC, that type of thing. The collective leadership must be redefined inside the ANC, must hold the president accountable, not him employing us. And for instance, let me make an example. We must put an end to the president from the NEC, National Executive Committee of the ANC, having members of the National Executive as members of his cabinet. Your National Executive must hold you accountable. Because if people are members of your executive, you are elected as president, you are going to choose ministers from those people, you turn your own...
How do they hold you accountable in the NEC?
Yeah, you turn your people who are supposed to...
When you are their boss
That's
in
right.
the executive.
Let me give an example. It happened to me. I have an experience, and I used to sit in this studio as the talk show host, and people ask me the same question. When I became premier, Marimecha, it was hunky-dory. It was so nice. We have so many people who were very, very powerful people who were members of the cabinet here. Some of them, a day after I was elected, after saying, I will be the president, I accept, started remembering my birthdays, my grandmother's birthday, my daughter's birthday, and people were very critical along the road of this good organization. They stopped. Because you know why? Then I realized his car, his blue light, I never had one. His the money for private schools, lifestyle, title, Your Excellency, Your Honorable, those, they belong to me. The food in the fridge is mine. People change. I called them and I said, you've changed, comrades. You're no longer as open as critical. I'm telling you the truth. You're no longer open. I have people like Den Fokeng, Jabum Leketi, Jesse Duarte, Paul Mashatile. Because it's a new cabinet, I didn't know these people. Lots of good people there. But some of them started changing because power and money power changes people, takes away their views, and people don't, at meetings, yes, every statement starts as the premier was saying. Then as a minister, as the minister have said, the president, as the president, people are just, rubbing their fingers. And
it's a culture that's been created in the organization.
So I'm back. How do you solve that type of a thing? The national executive of the ANC must be the boss of the president because the president is from amongst them or whatever.
Yeah.
Hold that person account. He can't employ us, but they all want to be next to him, and then you can meet a million times, it will get nowhere because you cannot even hold the current president accountable for some of the things he's suspect for because the party will rally around him.
Yeah. 8 minutes now before 11. Winter's here, so are the season's hottest deals. Whether you are powering through early mornings or cozying up on cold nights, Takealot is your one-stop winter shop for heaters, appliances, winter skin, and everyday essentials. Shop smart, stay warm, and make your winter season with Takealot.
Checkers XXL Savings is on with the XXL Jackpot competition. New week, new deals, new jackpot. This week, save on Clover Butro Full Cream Modified Butter Spread, 500 grams for $79.99 each. And Twin Saver 2-ply toilet rolls, 24 per pack for $159.99. Remember, simply buy any 3 participating products, swipe your extra savings card and get a scratch card to enter the competition. Deals valid until Sunday at Checkers.
Nedbank Business Ignite on 702 is looking for a small business partner that talks a big game and delivers even bigger results. So if you're a small business that consistently dares to innovate, expand and better your bottom line, you could walk away with 200,000 Rand cash and a 200,000 Rand advertising package. So enter on igniteyourbusiness.co.za. Then every day this week from 6 a.m. catch 702 Breakfast with Bongani Bingwa to find out if you're a finalist in Nedbank Business Ignite on 702. T's and C's apply. Nedbank, an authorized FSP and registered credit provider.
You're with Clement Manyathela.
702.
All right, it's 6 minutes before 11 o'clock. We're wrapping up our chat with Tokyo Sexwale, who's in studio with us this morning. I've got some messages I want to go to in a moment, Mr. Sexwale, but I asked the question earlier. You didn't respond to it. Paul Mashatile, is that the president the ANC needs?
Is that a question? The ANC decides in line with its own decisions.
What do you think?
What I think doesn't matter. want to say, because I would like to point out who I may want to be the president. It's not for me to make that decision. It would be wise to steer clear of that controversy. What I have said in public, talking to a show of the young man, Mpho Mafole, was to say that the ANC must avoid this ruction, this disruptive way, catastrophic way of replacing president. Since Polokwane, president comes, throw him out. That's happened to Thabo. Zuma didn't finish, throw him out. So I said, avoid, we are destroying the ANC. Avoid this thing of kicking people out. I said, Ramaphosa, you can't kick him out. Let him finish his term. He's an outgoing president. And I said, therefore, it means that the man who's in the arrivals lounge is Paul Mashadi. People thought I'm nominating Paul. I'm not. He is in the arrivals lounge. Cyril is in the departure lounge. Now, Paul still has to catch the next flight now, the final flight from that arrivals lounge to the presidency. It's up to him. So if he's good enough, let the people put him up there. But if they feel there are issues around him, he must stand up for himself. And he's a subject of debate. I'm not influencing anybody right now. Maybe you should be the choice. Who knows that? But the ANC will choose its own leader. However, it must have the numbers to go to Parliament, because finally the Parliament must give a stamp of approval. If it doesn't have enough numbers, it won't get that president.
What do you think of Patrice Motsepe?
Patrice...
Because some are mentioning him as a possible...
I've seen that. I don't know if he's interested in that, because when he was in NAFCOC in the past, he did make a statement that...
He doesn't want it.
Yeah, that politics is for crazy people. He says, I'm not mad. You see,
was he wrong?
Perhaps not. So I've not heard him speak in public to say he wants the job. But in any case, you've got to go through a number of processes inside the ANC, in the DA and so on. So the president will not necessarily have to come from the ANC. If the ANC wants the presidency and the cabinet or the next government, a strong government, to come from amongst themselves, clean up your act first. Otherwise, the numbers are talking. I'll keep on saying the numbers are talking. People are talking, and the ANC must learn to listen. So it's not about the national dialogue only, it's about your dialogue yourself. If you don't dialogue that, I'm sorry, it will be the end of the road.
But let me ask you this way then. What kind of a leader do you think, because you've spoken about how things have fallen apart, what kind of a leader do you think can at least help the ANC reshape itself?
The leader must be sensitive. The kind of leader must be held accountable first. There must be systems, not him. It's uneventful for me, the type of a leader that we may have. I'm not impressed by that. We have been impressed by all these things in the past. It has not worked. There must be systems that hold that leader, whoever he is, accountable, so that we can put him up there and remove him the following day. If we don't have that power, then you are stuck for 5 years. Secondly, it must be somebody who understands where this country is going. We need discipline in this country, firm discipline. Things are falling apart. We don't need sweet talk anymore. We need people who have the interest of this country, respect the constitution, the law, respect the people, and understand that you are a servant of the people, not their boss. We need discipline from a leader.
How critical is that NGC going to be?
I don't know. It will be as critical and as good as the people inside there are prepared to say the things that must be said and change the ANC from inside.
Do you attend these things?
I do.
Will you speak out there?
Invited. Of course, we would like to. We'd like to, if people wanted to come.
Because if you're saying the ANC is at a crossroads, this is, I would imagine then that, now you shouldn't even care about will they like me, will they not. If you care much about this organization, here's a chance for you to play a role in trying to save it. If at all, it's even possible to save it. If the ship hasn't sailed.
So much I've given my life to this thing as a youth person. To be on Robben Island for so many years and the death cells where I'll go to Pretoria, I'll be visiting that place today. It's it. And to have gone out for it. I said my father's house is on fire. That's what I said last year. Let's campaign for this organization. But we've got to think twice now. The ANC must begin to listen to us. And if they don't listen to me, the numbers are talking.
What do you say to a South African who says, Mr. Sexwale, I listened to you when you said the fire was burning. Let's help put out the fire. And I tried to help put out the fire, but I'm now disappointed.
It was only
as a result, they're disappointed in you.
No, it was last year when the ANC was campaigning.
Yes.
Okay.
So someone says, listen to us now and says, but I heard you. And I actually voted for them. Now I'm disappointed looking at their actions now. And as a result, I'm disappointed that I shldn't have listened to you. What do you say to someone like that who
Maybe
heard
I'm more
you?
disappointed than that person. Maybe I'm also more disappointed than that person. But the fact of the matter, as I'm saying, there's a huge percentage of our people who still believe in this party. We can't lose them. And I don't want to blame those people because of actions of some few malfeasance and people who are having criminal intent. Therefore, it's a very dicey situation. It's because the ANC has been so prevalent, so influential in the politics of this country. I'm not asking for anybody to vote for it right now. All I'm saying is that the ANC must vote for itself by rectifying the wrongs inside the organization. Then the people vote for you. But if we don't hold ourselves accountable, it's a foregone conclusion that you will end up hanging at the end of that rope. People have given us sufficient rope to hang ourselves. But again, I conclude, it consists the bulk of the people, good men and women, who have been betrayed by a lot of us inside there.
By a lot of us. Thank you for making time for us. I need you to come back here because I want to talk to you about the Middle East. So I'll drag you back in studio at some point. Yeah?
I've been there, Hamas.
I know. So I'll bring you back. Yeah. As long as you make a commitment right now on air that you're going to come back.
It took us a year to do this.
It must take us 2 months this time around, please. All right, let me release you. I know you're going somewhere. I'll see you where you are going next.
I guess we're going to...
Because I'm coming to that same event as well. All right, thank you. That's Tokyo Sexwale, the former Gauteng Premier and Minister. It's a minute after 11.
This is EWN.
Good morning, I'm Sfiso Zulu. 4 people accused of instigating the July 2021 unrest are due to appear in the Rwanda Magistrates Court today. The suspects from Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal were handcuffed last month on charges of incitement to cause public violence. The unrest was triggered by the arrest of former President Jacob Zuma for contempt of court. Tabiso Goba reports.
One person has been convicted since the unrest 4 years ago. In 2023, Pietermaritzburg-based security guard Nkosindiphile Xhakaza was sentenced to 12 years in prison for his role in the chaos. The unrest, which took place in KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng, resulted in the deaths of more than 350 people and caused billions of rands in infrastructure damage. It's alleged the 4 accused persons today ran a WhatsApp group called Zuma Real Activist 100%. The state says they used this group to circulate inflammatory messages which contributed to the unrest. Tabiso Goba, Eyewitness News, Road Reports.
Staying at the same court, the bail hearing of the man charged with the premeditated murder of 14-year-old Mpho Mafole continues this morning. Mduduzi Mnisi's hearing was adjourned last week after a key witness failed to show up in court on time. Mnisi has pleaded not guilty to the charge, claiming there's footage to prove his innocence. Fole's mutilated body was discovered in a veld not far from her home in Durban Deep last month. Nobuhle Nkabane reports.
On the first day of the bail hearings last Tuesday, Mduduzi Mnisi told the court that the investigating officer in charge of the case was not doing a thorough work in investigating the matter, claiming he had relayed information to him, including evidence that was in his phone that proves he was not with the girl on the day she disappeared. Mnisi was reportedly last seen with 14-year-old Mpho Mafole before she vanished and later discovered mutilated. He also told the court that he later came back home to his girlfriend, who can give a witness account to the information. The hearing was rolled over for his partner Pinky to give a witness account on his behalf. However, the matter was further postponed after she did not make an appearance on time. Today, the hearing continues for possible investigation findings to be revealed. Thanduluhle Ngcobo, Eyewitness News.
The SACP insists contesting state power was unavoidable as its alliance partner, the ANC, seeks to draw a line between the two parties ahead of next year's municipal elections. EWN understands members of the ANC National Working Committee are in support of its first Deputy Secretary General, Nobuhle Nkabane, who's called for a ban on SACP members participating in ANC elections preparations. She's defended booting out SACP members from an elections meeting in Mpumalanga last week. ANC and the ANC's NWC members want the issue discussed at the upcoming National Executive Committee meeting. Tsidi Madia reports.
Recent messages from ANC leaders to party members have sounded warning bells. This as they asked them to prepare to defend their organization, even against their own alliance partner, the SACP. It seems for the first time since threatening to go at it alone, the party might actually go head-to-head with the ANC on the ballot next year. NWC members want the ANC to deliberate on the implications of the move, including on those with dual membership and for those currently serving in the executive on a so-called ANC ticket. The SACP says the flurry of public statements aren't surprising, adding that the ANC is reacting to a new scenario that it never thought possible. Its national spokesperson Nobuhle Nkabane says this development was inevitable.
Given that the ANC has not been paying attention to issues that the Communist Party has been raising about the direction we are taking politically.
The SACP has fielded a candidate in a by-election taking place in Polokwane later this month, the first one since its renewed drive to go at it alone. Tsidi Madia, Eyewitness News.
And 2 people have died in France due to heat-related illnesses as the country registers its second hottest June since records began in the 1900s. The Minister for Ecological Transition says more than 300 people have been treated by firefighters. The heat wave has continued across much of the country yesterday after many cities experienced their hottest night and day on record. The top of the Eiffel Tower in Paris has been closed because of the intense European heat wave. And for the first time in 5 years, the Paris region has activated a red alert, which is the highest extreme heat warning alongside with 15 other French regions. More than 1,000 schools and colleges in France were closed, colleges were closed because of the heat. Gold is trading at $3,338.09 an ounce. The rand is at 17.61 to the dollar, 24.19 to the pound, 20.76 to the euro. Brent crude oil is at $67.19 a barrel.
And in the traffic, we've got some delays along the N1 South. That's in the city of Tshwane. It's due to the roadworks that are taking place along this route. The delays are between Sefako Makhato all the way towards Linwood Road. And that's for long-term roadworks. As a result, 4 lanes are being closed off to traffic towards Linwood Road. And traffic is being diverted onto Linwood Road. So if you're traveling in the city of Tshwane, you might want to avoid the N1 South at this moment. Traveling in Randburg, specifically Sharon Lee, we've got some delays on the N1 North. That's due to roadworks taking place after the Malibongwe Drive off-ramp.
A partly cloudy day in store for Gauteng. The temperatures will peak at highs between 19 and 20 degrees. The top story in EW and the Sour. 4 people accused of instigating the July 2021 unrest are due to appear in the Rwanda Magistrates Court today.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app. Entries to the 702 Walk the Talk are open. Go to primemediaplus.com to get your tickets today.
You're with Clement Manyathela
On 702.
Let's Walk the Talk, streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856,
92.7 and 106 FM.
Eight minutes after 11 o'clock. Sanbonani, Dumelang. Welcome to the third and final hour of the Clement Manyathela Show. Thank you for staying with us here on 702. Time for our Listener's Choice feature.
Burning questions.
Insightful answers.
Listener's Choice.
With Clement Manyathela.
So on our Listener's Choice feature today, we've been asked by one of our listeners, because that's what Listener's Choice is about. This is an opportunity for you as a listener to co-curate the content of the show with us. So you can send us an email on cm@702.co.za if you want to suggest a topic for us, or maybe there's something we didn't sufficiently talk about and you want us to talk about it, or maybe there's something that happened locally, globally, and you want us to bring in an expert who can explain it, this is a feature for you. So you can send an email on cm@702.co.za for your suggestions. Today, we're looking at the Rwanda DRC peace deal, because one of our listeners asked that we bring in an expert or someone who can explain this deal that's been brokered by the US with the help of Qatar. Right? As you may know now, the Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda signed a deal in Washington on Friday, and this is aimed at ending the decades of deadly conflict in the eastern DRC. And what the deal does is address the violence that's intensified when, especially the Rwanda-backed M23 armed group seized key cities there in the DRC, including Goma and Bukavu earlier this year. That's when it intensified. It's been going on for so long. So this agreement calls for Rwanda to withdraw soldiers from the DRC territory, to respect territorial integrity, the neutralization of the Democratic Forces of the Liberation of Rwanda armed group, that's the FDLR, and of course economic measures. And in return, well, the US has access to the DRC's critical minerals. So what does this actually mean? Well, right, will this agreement succeed in halting the fighting? And what does it mean for the US's role in the region? What about the M23? Because they are not a signatory to this peace deal. So we've invited Victor Khomeswana, who is an author and commentator on African business matters, who's joining us. He's also with the University of Limpopo. And then afterwards, I'm going to bring in someone on the ground who's going to tell us how the people in the DRC are responding to this peace deal that's been signed by their president in America. Mr. Khomeswana, thank you so much for making time for us. Good morning.
Good morning, Clement, and to the listeners of 702. It's always good to be on 702.
So I want us to start with the deal. Just maybe let's take a few steps back and explain what it actually entails. Because one of the things I thought of as I saw them signing the deal in the Oval Office was, where's the M23? Because they play a critical role here. And if they're not going to sign this, is it really going to hold?
Yeah. Time will tell, Clement, and I will tell you right up front. Time will tell, and a lot of that will depend on the DRC and the capacity of the DRC to run its affairs. And I'm not blaming the victims here. I'm simply saying the existence of an M23, yes, there's external support and all kinds of accusations, but there's a story that it started as a way to integrate people into the armed forces of the DRC, and that has not happened, and they continue to feel that they are marginalized. But the settlement, and I always knew it was going to take an external force like the US and Qatar to get this, because this has been fueled by external forces. You know, I know that we talk about Rwanda as the gateway, as the channel of whatever minerals are coming out of the DRC, but they have a destination, and that destination, if you know coltan and what it is used for, you will know it goes into cell phones that you and I are using, into renewable, rechargeable batteries. It goes into laptops. It goes into all kinds of electronic equipment, aircraft parts, and automotive electronic components. So there are four legs on which this agreement stands. One is about the peaceful settlement of disputes. They agree that there are disputed territories, disputes that involve integration of people into the military, but they must be resolved peacefully. Secondly, they say there must be mutual respect for sovereignty, which means Rwanda, if you're operating in the DRC, respect the sovereignty of the DRC and not operate out of there or support whatever forces might be there. The second thing it talks about, the third thing is territorial integrity, which means the Central African region or the Great Lakes region is very sensitive because it's got a lot of biodiversity, it's got a lot of movement of people that is now hampered, it's got a lot of violation of human rights of children especially and women, and just displacement of people. The integrity of that territory must be respected. And lastly, national unity. And national unity in both countries so that the negotiation can supersede military intervention as they find the solution. They also talk about neutralizing FDLR. Now, FDLR is key because it's the Democratic Forces for the Liberation of Rwanda, but it's now operating in the DRC. So that's why Rwanda has to be held responsible to a certain extent. But then they also talk about disengagement and stopping the support of the armed groups, and obviously the making sure that some people who have been vetted can be integrated into the armed forces of the DRC or the police. And they are talking about this should be people who are obviously not guilty of international humanitarian violations, etc. Then there is lastly the Joint Security Coordination Mechanism and the Monitoring Committee, which is made of Qatar, of the DRC, of Rwanda, and of the US, because this coordination means that they are refugees, people who have been displaced. They must be allowed to return. They must protect civilians. And I think there's a meeting in 45 days that must happen of the Joint Oversight Committee in Washington, D.C., or not far too more than that. Let's see whether they can be, because the end goal is the establishment of trust, Clement, as I close. The establishment of trust between the DRC and Rwanda as neighbors, defeating FDLR, and making sure they de-escalate the armed conflict in that area. So that, in a nutshell, is what the agreement says and what is contained in it. But let me rather.
Where does this leave the M23? Because even though there may be peace between the DRC and Rwanda, you still have this rebel group that says we are fighting a legitimate fight here, and they're going to take that fight to the DRC army.
Yeah, no, remember, that's why I mentioned the conditional integration into security forces. Because remember that M23 is a group of people who reached an agreement a while back, 23rd of March, I think it was 2012, where the agreement was reached, again, that these are people who are they are Congolese, and we have talked about this over and over. People called the Banyamulenge, people who are considered to be Rwandan when they have been in Congo all their lives. Some of them were born there, most of them were brought in, some of them were brought. So the integration is almost like, think of the MK situation or the former Liberation Army, Clement, MK, Azanla, APLA. These are people who say we have fought for the liberation, for the independence. The M23 guys are saying we helped Kabila get into force. We helped him overcome Mobutu Sese Seko, and we have always been marginalized. And that has been the conflict, what it is about. Unfortunately, when you feel marginalized economically and there is coltan in your neighborhood and willing buyers of illicit or conflict minerals, you are going to be tempted to exchange arms for some of the coltan, and then the fighting continues. But the agreement states it explicitly. There must be conditional integration of people into the security forces. They mean people that you call M23.
Yeah. So this peace deal was brokered outside of the continent. I mean, one of the things, and I'll ask you about this maybe towards the end, but I do think that we need to ask ourselves serious questions as Africans, that you're going to have Qatar, host meetings of two African leaders, and you've got the US that's going to say, oh, come, let's sign a peace deal from Washington, D.C. I wonder what that tells us as a continent.
It tells us one thing, and one thing only. It's all about the economy, Clement. The Middle East is among the top 3 sources of foreign direct investment in Africa. I repeat, the Middle East and the US, in fact, are among the top 3 sources of foreign direct investment in Africa, which means the bulk of the money that's coming into the continent to invest in greenfields projects is not me, it's the EY Ernst & Young Africa Attractiveness Survey of 2023. I'm sure the 2024 will confirm the same thing. It normally comes towards the end of the year. These are people who are investing. I mean, think about it. The United Arab Emirates, it's not Qatar. United Arab Emirates invested more than $40 billion in a renewable energy project. One project in Morocco, in Mauritania, of all places. So there's lots of money that's coming into electronics, into business services, into renewable energy, into infrastructure, into hospitality from the US, from the Middle East, and from, of course, China. But these two have an interest. As I speak to you, Qatar Airways flies to Kigali. It's been flying there for a very long time. So it's business interests. You look at Donald Trump fighting Elon Musk. I'm telling you, as for free, Elon Musk is wagging his tail because this deal is going to make sure that his renewable and rechargeable batteries for his Tesla motor company will be secure because America is going to get money out of it. But that's it. If Africans don't wake up to the fact that we are used by external forces to fight one another, we will continue to be, shall I say, sitting ducks or fishing waters for people who have
what
no
happened
interest
to us
in our
having envoys who can help facilitate discussions? I mean, a peace deal to be brokered outside of the continent? And I hear you about the economy. It's all about the economy. But what does it say about our ability as a continent, especially even as regional bodies, right, to be able to say, let's send our former President Thabo Mbeki. Let's get the two leaders to sit down. Let's come up with a deal. I mean, what Trump has done could have been done and facilitated by our own leaders on the continent.
Clement, man, you just say, people like Thabo Mbeki, former president, these are people who know the dynamics, who have the demeanor, who understand international diplomacy, who understand economic diplomacy. Why he was not part of that conversation, only goodness knows. I don't know. But I can assure you, economic diplomacy is not easy. I know Durko talks about economic diplomacy, and I know they mean well. Meaning, let's not look at international relations as just a way of going into parties and attending banquets. But let's make sure we integrate our economic interests with the countries where we have representation. The agreement talks about regional economic integration, by the way, recognizing that COMESA, the Common Market for Eastern and Southern Africa, and the East African Community of both these countries are members of that. In the spirit of African Continental Free Trade Area must be done, because in the end, this war has never been political. It has never been about religion or anything other than economics. That's what we've been trying to say. But it tells you that unless we are awake to that reality, we will remain somebody else's, shall I say, toy. And I mean, I really wept when I saw Donald Trump and how cocky he was. Talking to these two countries, sovereign states, like he's talking to his children. You guys will do what you say you will do. You guys will. And I'm thinking the gall to address sovereign states like, we're talking 25% of coltan coming from Central Africa, and that's only confirmed reserves. Australia no longer has enough coltan. The other coltan you're going to find in Colombia, in Venezuela, and in Brazil. These are not areas that are easy to mine either. So Central Africa is a very critical area, and that's why Donald Trump and Qatar would have made it a priority.
Just lastly, so you've spoken about what's in it for the US, but when we talk about access to mineral resources, what does that mean? Does it mean the DRC now, when there are US companies that want to come and mine, that resource, they must be given priority? Practically speaking, what does it mean?
In fact, this defense, the part of the military, the de-escalation, because remember, the DRC has always had a very weak army. Let's call a spade a spade. And that's why its security forces could be overwhelmed. When there was a takeover at an airport at one point, the one airport couldn't operate around Goma. And it almost looked like the government could not secure a strategic asset as an airport. So the weak army means you are going to need support from outside. But the security backing, MONUSCO is supposed to be protecting civilian populations. But any mining fields that are there are going to need extra security. Rwanda has got its own Crystal Ventures, which has got a very capable military capacity. They are already protecting Cabo Delgado, some of the assets for Total Energies in northern Mozambique, in southern Mozambique. So they do have that, but I can assure you the assets that are going to be mined by external companies are going to end up getting private army. Remember, the Wagner group might be out, but there's another one I forget, a Russian force that's operating in that part of the world in Central Africa. So you are going to find that when private investment happens, part of the responsibility of the investors will be to get security. And that's where you're going to find a base of some sort being developed to make sure that they can protect their investors, their engineers, their mining managers, and all that. So unfortunately, that's a gateway, free pass to the resources of Africa, and it could end up creating a lot of interference from external security forces disguised as protectors of mining or investment assets.
Yeah. Oof, what's that catchphrase again? It's the economy, stupid.
It's the economy. Stupid.
It is. Victor Khomeswana, thanks for making time for us. Really appreciate your time, author and commentator on African business matters, joining us from the University of Limpopo. 24 after 11.
You're with Clement Manyathela.
702.
All right, so we are now joined by Kambale Musavuli, who is an analyst at the Center for Research on the Congo. And I thought we should bring someone who's able to give us a sense of how people are responding on the ground as well. So, Kambale, thank you so much for making time. I really appreciate it. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah. Can you just share your perspective with us as a Congolese about this deal, peace deal that's been signed, brokered by the United States? What's the feeling on the ground, and how hopeful are people in the Congo that this is something that's going to lead to the silencing of the guns?
A lot of thoughts is coming through my head because, today is the 100th anniversary of Patrice Lumumba. He was born on July 2nd, 1925, and we just celebrated our 65th Independence Day 2 days ago on June 30th. And this deal is coming at a time where many Congolese are questioning the validity of the deal, right? And also the reshaping of Congo's history of really what has been unfolding in Congo since 1996. And the reason I'm saying this is that peace in the Congo will never happen from Washington. And I'm quoting Patrice Lumumba on that when he spoke about Africa's history being written by Africans, not in Brussels, not in Paris, not in Washington. To see it happen there, and as you read the clause very closely, you will notice that there is not a discussion around justice. Outside of the mineral deal, because that's what's being discussed a lot, right? There is a minerals deal, there is a peace, there is a hope for peace. The question we should ask ourselves, the over 6 million Congolese who have died in the Congo, where is justice for them? And I do not have to even go back from all the way to 96. I can just look at what happened since January of this year. In 2025, from January to now, at least 3,000 Congolese have been killed by the M23 rebellion, right? And the numbers are higher if you look at the numbers from the Congolese government. They go over 12,000 people killed, and other international organizations are bringing the numbers much lower. Those who died in the city of Goma, in the taking over of the city of Goma, when we even talk about the Congolese youth who said, we have a Congolese army, they are deficient, but we will join them in protecting the sovereignty, right? The territorial integrity of the Congo. And they call them the Wazalendo. Ordinary Congolese who say, we are going to lose our life to make sure that we protect our land. Many of them also died during the taking over of Goma. So the discussion for the Congolese is, what about justice? Around the deal. Sentiment that's all across the country.
Have the Congolese benefited from this coltan mineral? I mean, the U.S. now has access. They are going to be prioritized. They're going to have easy access to this kind of mineral. And that, for me, questions, where does this leave then the DRC and the possibility or ability of using this resource to try and empower the Congolese people?
I mean, this deal came, and I think that's where I join a bit of the analysis from the first speaker. It comes from a perspective where the Congolese government was at a weak point in January, and they did not know how to move forward. The Tshisekedi regime actually is vying to survive, right? Outside of the conflict, they want to stay beyond their presidential term, and the current conflict also questioned the power of the central government. So the deal that they made to be able to take Congo's wealth, estimated at $24 trillion, and according to document we're seeing so far, is they are putting forward $3 trillion worth of minerals in the hands of their American companies. That is taking Congo's future away. Congolese need to be able to benefit from the resources, and that's the element from Patrice Lumumba's speech on Independence Day in 1960. That we, the Congolese, are going to build the country, are going to show the world what we could do when we are free. And it's a complete contradiction to what Lumumba said, what we are saying.
Yeah.
But the reason why I'm speaking a lot is because the first speaker said a lot of things, and that get me worried. And that get me worried because I am now more convinced that many people do not know what is happening in the Congo. And it's very important, especially for South Africa, an audience in South Africa, to really understand what is happening in the Congo, because South Africans, specifically its military, they help the Congolese people a lot. And we owe them a great debt for what they did to protect the people of the Congo.
Yeah, and now they've just returned that army back. And I think there's an admission now, even from the South African government, that this is not a conflict that you're going to solve through the barrel of a gun, but it's a conflict and a war that's going to be solved through a diplomatic process where people sit down and find a solution. Kambale, I'm out of time, but thank you so much for making time for us. Kambale Musavuli is an analyst with the Center for Research on the Congo. I thought we should bring you someone as well who can tell us from a Congolese perspective what they think about this deal. It's 11:31. Let's get the latest in Eyewitness News headlines. Mbali, hi.
Thanks, Clement. Good morning. A fifth person has been added to the suspects who are facing charges in the case of the July 2021 unrest instigators. Joel Mabaso appeared in the Roodepoort Magistrates Court today alongside 4 of his co-accused. They're all charged with conspiracy to incite public violence. The bail hearing of the man charged with the premeditated murder of 14-year-old Likwana Fose continues this morning. Mduduzi Mnisi's hearing was adjourned last week after a key witness failed to show up in court on time. Mnisi's pleaded not guilty to the charge, claiming there's footage to prove his innocence. And in Ekurhuleni, authorities are investigating the cause of a fire which has left one person dead at the Makausi informal settlement. The blaze broke out in the early hours of this morning, leaving many structures destroyed. Those are the headlines. This EWN and more at midday or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
Traveling inherently, we still have got roadworks on the N1 North at Malibongwe Drive, and they are causing delays. Please be on the lookout there. While traveling in the city of Tshwane, more roadworks are taking place along the N1 South towards Linwood Road. Delays are about a 20-minute hold up there coming out of the Proof Plus interchange. Please be on the lookout there and drive with care and try to avoid 4 lanes are closed off to traffic for these roadworks, and they will be there until 3 p.m. Please try to avoid. And traffic lights are still out of order in Rand Park Ridge at the N1 and Beyers Nondia Drive. They're also out in North Riding at CR Swart and Malibongwe Drive. I'll have Karabutali will have your next traffic updates at the top of the hour.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
The Sharing Space
On the Clement Manyathela Show.
702.
11:33, time for the Sharing Space. This is where we share our stories. And if the person sharing the story is asking for advice, please be generous enough to advise them. If they are just sharing their experience, please let us know if you've faced something similar as well. So today we've got a voice note. We're going to play for you, and then I'm going to go to your calls and WhatsApps. And remember, if you've got a story you want to share for us, very easy. Just send us an email on cm@702.co.za and indicate that this is for the Sharing Space. Let's take a listen to today's story.
Hey, Clement, I hope you're doing well. I am a 35-year-old man who is gainfully employed with no kids, and my only dependent is my mom. I, however, still try to use my money wisely when I can. And my girlfriend recently made me aware of something that has been happening for some time now, which I was just too blind to it until she came into my life. She recently asked me why my friends always want me to settle the bill when we go out for lunch or dinner, which is something that has been happening for a couple of years now, but I never really paid attention because I make more money than most of my friends. And this is also happening across gender lines. My lady friends never even touch their bags when it's time to pay the bill. Sometimes they will even invite me to a place and still expect me to pay the bill. Sometimes they also will order expensive meals and drinks and fold their arms when the bill comes. My male friends sometimes say I should settle the bill and they will pay me later, but they never really do. And right now, I have reached a point where I cannot allow this anymore because even if I have more money, it is mine to save and invest. So, can you and your listeners help me? How can I deal with this when it happens next time?
Yeah. Okay. How does Anonymous deal with this when it happens next time? So, from what I'm picking up there, Anonymous, did he say how old he is? 35. He's 35, gainfully employed, seems to be doing well financially. He's got friends that often, when he goes out with them, they don't want to contribute towards the bill. Why? Because they think, well, Anonymous, you make more money than us anyway. And he says for women, there are certain women that are his friends who will go out to a dinner or lunch with him and they don't even touch their purses because they think Anonymous must just settle it. Now, Anonymous, the first thing for me is, first of all, you need to go and kiss your girlfriend and appreciate her and hug her and take her out for dinner because she's made you realize something you have been missing. And that thing is that you have been abused by your own friends. It doesn't matter that you are the CEO of this and that company. It doesn't matter that you earn R1 million a month. It doesn't matter that you are more privileged than your friends. That doesn't entitle them. That doesn't mean they're entitled to your money, whether it's money available to spend anyhow you want to or not. So I think your girlfriend must be appreciated because she has helped you wake up to the reality that your friends are abusing this friendship. They're abusing you. So I hope you realize that. Next time you go to your friends, just don't pay the bill. Next time, just sit back and look the other way. And let's see what happens. Or just pay your part. Or raise it with them. Write them a message and explain that I don't like this. That has been happening, guys. What's going on? Because this is wild. Because Anonymous gets paid more than the friends. Now, the friends think they are entitled to that. And I've said to Bongani this morning that I've picked it up with some of the friends. Right? I've picked it up sometimes when you go out. I mean, there was a time when maybe I should share this story. Because what if the person is listening? Okay, let me not share the story. Let me think about it first because, there's a person I once met in another country who's a friend who probably will be listening. And that may cause issues. It's 22 minutes before 12 o'clock. After the break, I'm going to hear your stories and your advice for Anonymous. Give us a call or send us a WhatsApp voice note.
John Perlman. Weekday afternoons,
3 to 6.
How serious is this issue, though? The larger question, and it's being asked not just by people in the Democratic Alliance or indeed people in any of the political parties, is if the president is indeed dealing with members of the executive who have gone against the code. It is rather odd that no action is being taken against Higher Education Minister Nobuhle Nkabane.
It's not helped when individual members of the JNU are now almost going on a public campaign on some of these matters. We need to handle these matters properly.
John Perlman.
3 to 6 on 702.
Every day I'm hustling. It's our reality as business owners. And it's good to know that there's someone out there who takes care of the business that makes the business. Gotta love My Way Business Insurance. Saving big on premiums with 24/7 emergency services, plus My Business Assist with marketing, legal, and labor advice services.
Visit myway.co.za or dial 0860 64 64 64 and get a quote today. My Way is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. T's, C's and standard rates apply. My Way. Live your way.
The thrill of the chase comes with great rewards in the legendary Hollywood Bets Spinner Zonke Jackpot Race. Join the run, spin selected habanero slots for fun and stand a chance to win a share of 3 million rand. Feel the rush in the race for riches when you bet 2 rand or more every Wednesday, Friday and Saturday, and you could jump with Jackpot Joy. Take on the challenge and discover endless opportunities to win big. Bet now.
T's and C's apply. Hollywood Sportsbook is a licensed betting operator. Hollywood Bet supports responsible gambling. No persons under the age of 18 years are permitted to gamble. Winners know when to stop. South African Responsible Gambling Foundation toll-free counselling line 0800 006 008 or WhatsApp HELP to 076 675 0710.
The time to honor our past and step into a shared future as a team is here. Corporate hospitality and team entries for this year's 702 Walk the Talk are still open. Gather your colleagues together on Sunday, the 27th of July, to walk through the historic Freedom Park heritage site, past the national landmarks, and finish at the Union Buildings. To book hospitality, email hospitality@raceoffice.co.za. For corporate entries, visit primemediaplus.com. 702 Walk the Talk, hosted by Freedom Park heritage site in the city of Tshwane, where footsteps become footprints.
The Sharing Space
on the Clement Manyathela Show.
702.
20 minutes before 12 o'clock. Okay, fine. I'll tell you the story quickly because a lot of you on the WhatsApp line are like, please just say. So there was a time I traveled, I was on holiday, I was in New York. And a friend who's from here said, hey, I'm also here. Let's have dinner or drinks, whatever. I said, oh, okay, cool. And it was a few years back. It was my first time in New York. So I said, you pick a place because this is my first time here. Friend picks a place. By the time I arrive there, I can see this is like a very expensive place. It's like a rooftop somewhere. We get there, we order drinks, we eat. The bill comes. She looks at me. She didn't flinch. And I didn't flinch either because I'm in New York. I'm using dollars with our weak rand. I'm not about to settle somebody else's bill who is very capable of settling their own bill. And she said to me, nobody touched the bill. It got so awkward that at some point she said, she looked at me and she said, what are we doing with the bill? And I was like, we're paying the bill? And she said, are we really going to go half-half? And I said, yes. To cut a long story short, I've not really seen that friend since that time because I think she's upset because I didn't want to settle the bill. And I heard from another friend later on that she was disappointed by that behavior because there are some women out there who think when they go out with men, they're entitled to men paying their bills, even when they're capable of paying their bills. And I think that's a lesson we need to learn because I've done that many times as well. Every time I'm out, especially with women, there's a part of me that just feels like, just pay for it. I don't know why I have that. Whether the woman makes more money than me or not, I just feel bad to have us share the bill. But I've got female friends who sometimes will say, no, let's go half-half. So that's the story that happened there in New York. But I did think that it was also disappointing. I do think as a woman, why do you actually, you're not a child. Why do you want to be taken care of and have your meals paid for? If you can afford it, especially if you choose places, you're going to choose a place that's expensive and order champagne, but you can't afford it? You're a scammer. Harry, you're calling from Mpumalanga. Good morning.
Yeah, Clement, how are you?
I'm all right. How are you doing?
Yeah, you're speaking to Harry Mukali. I'm from Sekunda, Mpumalanga.
Welcome, brother. My dad's name is Harry. Go ahead.
Yeah. You know, I share a similar experience like the one you've experienced before. But mine was different when it comes to this guy. He's a friend of mine. I'm working with him. He said, no, bro, this weekend he invited me. Say, no, come to this restaurant. So I went there to this restaurant. When I arrived there, Clement, he was with a girlfriend. I came along. He was with the girlfriend. And he said, no, guys, you can order anything. And then after that, the guy, you know what the guy did? He said, was myself, I had my own money. So then after that, I said, no, Chief, I'm going to pay for myself. You can pay for my friend. The guy, he said to me, no, I'm going to the bathroom and then I'll be back now. The guy, I thought maybe he will be back. I was busy sitting here eating and all that. We were just having a chat with the girlfriend and all that. After that, the guy, he's nowhere to be found. I called him, he's on the phone. Hey, Chief, where are you? He doesn't want to. I mean, I send him WhatsApp text, where are you? He doesn't answer me, reply my text. And then when I check the bill, when they bring the bill, that lady, the girlfriend, she doesn't have money. I have to pay for her. You know how much payment? I spent almost 2,000 rand, 2,000 something.
Yeah.
Just to pay for
someone's girlfriend. Harry, the boyfriend must come back.
No, the guy, you know, I just feel pity for this lady because she's a student. And I was like, this guy, he ran away. And then when I called him the following day, he's telling me, hey, bruh,
no, Harry, that's wild. And guys, this has nothing to do with Lebongame, hey? You're not my person. So even if you are my person, you are not entitled to every cent of mine. So you are a friend. You think I must spend my money on you? Sometimes you ask me to a lunch and I must pay for it. No. I can at least rationalize that if you are my person. But no, that's not the case. So I think you're a scammer. If you are one of the ladies or guys who invites friends for lunch, hey, let's go to this place, and the bill comes, you look the other side, you are a scammer. KB, you're in Rosebank. Hi.
Hey, Clement.
Sure.
Good, man. You know, you and I, we are privileged, and I think your topic is very, it has a bit of humor to it, but it's actually quite broad. You know, me and you are privileged because we have confidence to be able to stand up for ourselves. And the reason I'm calling is because I feel like there's a lot of vulnerable people out there, you know, and some vulnerable people actually are wealthy people. You know, people that have the means to take care of themselves, but they don't have certain strengths to be able to defend themselves, and that's why they find themselves in situations like this. You know, yesterday I heard, I was listening to Bra Op's show, and they were speaking about how people fall victim to narcissists.
Yeah.
And how we are talking about people falling victim to their own friends, having to pay the bill and all of that. And I'd like to leave advice for parents, you know, to really, really, really teach their kids to be confident. You know, give their kids assurance that they are good enough, they are brilliant, so that when they grow up to have the strength of being able to protect themselves and knowing exactly where when they're being taken advantage of, because that's what leads to these kind of things. You know what I mean?
Yeah, true. Yeah, confidence is so important, KB. Thanks for that, KB in Rosebank. Here's another tip here from Andile, who says, hi, Clement. I have been in a similar position as the caller where I'm the one expected to pay the bill because I earn more. So how I overcame that is that I carry cash for my budget. So if I know I want to spend 500 Rand, I would withdraw 500 Rand and take that out. When the bill comes, even though I know I have my card, I just take out the cash and that's all the money I have. There's a tip. That could work. No? 12 minutes before 12 o'clock. More calls and WhatsApps after this.
To walk the talk is to turn words into meaningful actions. And it's what we at 702 are committed to doing every day. We are also committed to following the rules set out by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission's Code of Conduct. To give you balanced programming, fair comments, and accurate news. But if we stumble along the way and you feel we are not living up to the code, let us know on comment@702.co.za. And if after that you're still not happy, you can direct your complaint in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission. Email bccsa@nabsa.co.za. For more, Visit bccsa.co.za.
Have you heard? Business Outsurance are experts in business insurance for pharmacies, restaurants, beauty salons, convenience stores, and more. That's why over 100,000 businesses across various industries trust Business Outsurance. A big benefit of Business Outsurance is that when you claim, your excess is a fixed amount, not a percentage of the claim. Get a quick and easy quote today. Call 08600 60,000 or visit outsurance.co.za. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's and information online.
The Sharing Space
On the Clement Manyathela Show.
702.
11 minutes before 12 o'clock. Guys, you see why I don't like sharing stories about people when I'm here. So a friend has sent me a message now. And this is a friend, and this is not even a friend I was talking about. So you know yourself when a friend who sent me a WhatsApp. I'm not talking about you. Because the friend is in New York right now. So she says, but it was not me. No, it wasn't you. I mean, we've never had a situation like that. Let's go to some WhatsApps.
Clement, it had to be a girlfriend who stops the RDP. This is RDP. The rich is delivering to the poor.
Hi, Clement. Anonymous, I feel your pain. Some of us have been through that road before. So, Kimba Mfana go when it's dinner or whatever, Kimba, only whatever you know, and then Rota. Let them deal with it. Hanyane fella just to shake the grounds. Kimba, 69 Nyamalle.
Madimech, Obrumurudumo Pologon. Anonymous must just stay away from those guys. They are just negative energy. Run and run very fast.
Hi, good morning. It's Leon here. My suggestion for that person would be that if you plan to go for lunch again or to a restaurant with your friends, beforehand, before sitting down, before going even there, to tell them, right guys, tonight is everyone for themselves, eh? You're welcome to come with me, but everyone is responsible for their own bill, so that they will know beforehand that's what's going to happen. Thank you very much. Take care.
All right, let's go back to some calls now. Jay, you're in 4 ways. Good morning.
Morning, Clement. How are
Sure,
you?
man. I'm good. Go ahead.
Good, well, I think this behavior is common in Gauteng, right? Yeah, this thing of just ordering things without you being responsible paying is way too common in Gauteng. Of which we also need to teach our children or our sisters or our brothers, make sure that whenever you're going out or buying some food stuff or something, ordering, make sure you are responsible for it. That's what I always do to my sisters, because normally girls, they order some things that they can't afford. And then they lie on somebody. There's too much entitlement to that, of which that makes it very difficult for the children to be responsible. And if they end up in a situation whereby they can end up sleeping with a man without having consent of doing that, just because they're forced to due to the bills.
Yeah. Jay, in 4 ways. Thank you. Coltrane in Midrand. Hi.
Hi, Clement. How are you?
Sure.
Clement, I share the same sentiment with the anonymous. My best solution was, when I enter, tell the waiter, separate the bill. Or when the bill comes, I take a tick and give it to the next person.
Yeah.
I do that. And I don't care whether enough, I'm going to pay my part. You know, Clement, I hate when you invite a friend and say, let's go, it's on me.
Yeah.
Classic. Then they go for the most expensive dish. I choose the SQ. And the most, I'm like, okay, dude, I don't know how much is this. What is it, he or she? It doesn't matter. Why would I go for the most expensive? Because the head is on me.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, it's not cool. Where are the ladies at? Yeah? What sisters? Lekokai. Hey, you're so quiet. Oh, there's Lebu there. Lebu is calling us from Senton. Lebu, hi.
Hi, Clement.
Sure. Go ahead.
Yeah, Clement, the sense of entitlement is what, fundamentally frustrates me. As much as, I don't understand the concept of women who go to restaurants or dates or whatever, and they have the sense of entitlement to listen, this person's going to pay, or fundamentally because I'm a woman. I mean, we can do as much as work hard and so forth. And also in terms of men, the complacency of men sometimes. Men also want to be catered to in that sense. Personally, I have, I'm self-employed. I've worked hard. I didn't have the benefits of privilege. I grew up in the village, and I had to go to school, and I grafted. I'm fortunate enough to be living comfortably, and I literally cannot. It's either my success or wealth intimidates men, or they say I'm high maintenance and the like. And it's things that I've worked hard for. And the only time I will ever spend a dime on a man is my son. I have a son.
Yes.
And he's the only person that's entitled
Absolutely.
to say, please, I need this and that. I will only bend over backwards for men. And, I've had men who would be who have that expectation. Listen, I've told the person I'm recently dating now that, I'm going on a trip overseas. And he has this expectation that I'm going to fund his travel, which is mind-boggling. Because I'm just I literally worked so hard, and you just want, a free ride.
Hey,
I mean, my best friend, she's on a higher tax bracket than I am by far, and I'm comfortable. Well, she's way more comfortable. And we said, we're having a girls' trip. Why is he so offended by, this success? And my best friend also recently got divorced because I feel like the man was very intimidated. And it's not okay, you're demasculating the man in terms of his role as a man. But you can't also teach a man how to be a man.
Yeah, I'm also, go work also. But don't be entitled. Yeah, Lebo, thank you for calling. Botsang, you're in Centurion. What do you think?
Yes, my brother, how are you?
Sure.
And, bro, listen to Anonymous. I think one of the guys on the voice note said it. Communicate. Tell these people. Because some people, some they are doing it unconsciously, some they are threats. Tell them. And once you have told them, they'll start setting themselves out. If you don't communicate, if you have communicated and you don't pay, then it's their problem. But, girlfriends of my girlfriend or of my friends, they hate me with passion. They call me all names. I'm stingy. It's okay. I'm comfortable to be called stingy with my own money. My money.
Yes.
You understand? If I don't have, I stay in my house. I will spend money on my kids and my girlfriend or my woman. That's it. If I take her out. That's it. Or on me. There's nothing wrong in taking yourself out.
Absolutely. Botsang in Centurion. Thanks.
Hey, good day, Madimeta. I don't know how to put this in such a way that it will just make sense. But, let me just be blind and just say it. I'm currently unemployed, and I've got a very good friend, like a very amazing good friend who carries the bill whenever we out and, whatsoever. But I still have a headache of him paying the bill. And I even worry about our friendship because I feel like it's going to get to a point where, I'm just, our friendship is being compromised because he takes care of, my bills and all that. So, yeah. So I don't know. I don't know how to advise, Anonymous, but for my friend to pay my bill, I worry a lot.
Quiet, please.
The Wimbledon experience in Mzansi is back at Amex Tennis Town Monte Casino between 11 and 13 July 2025. Enjoy VIP hospitality, the ultimate big screen experience, and more than just strawberries and cream. Buy your tickets now using your Amex card on Howler and get 50% off on limited tickets. Amex Tennis Town, the championship's Wimbledon experience with the Mzansi advantage. Tennis is better with Amex.
What does extraordinary mean to you?
Is it being voted South Africa's most trusted enterprise telco 2 years in a row?
Vodacom Business helps more than 133,000 businesses with AI, cloud, enterprise apps, IoT, and security. One seamless ecosystem. Together, let's build the extraordinary that sustains today and protects tomorrow. Start your journey at vodacombusiness.co.za. Further together, Vodacom Business.
Coming up
On the Midday Report.
with Mandy Wiener.
Coming up next, the Midday Report. Mandy, hi.
Hi,
What's
Clem.
popping?
So yet another forensic audit official gunned down in Ekurhuleni. So we'll get response to that, really concerning the chilling effect that this has and the risk that it places auditors, whistleblowers, forensic specialists in. Interviews for the country's Deputy Chief Justice are underway at the moment. We'll speak to the Correctional Services Minister about his call for a potential return of corporal punishment for prisoners. Yeah. Wild.
Because what if they're innocent?
Not that. I mean, do we do this in South Africa?
I mean, we don't anymore. But my thing is, there are people who are awaiting trial, so you can determine whether they're guilty or not. So if you're going to beat someone up and they send them home,
people to 6 lashes.
I mean,
Like
that's
it's
weird.
not 1700.
Yeah, that's like